The story starts in a time that seems so far away that it blends into myth. Peace filled the land. The calm people didn't know it, but there was a dark shadow on the horizon. The Demon King, a terrifying being with unimaginable power, attacked with his huge army, upsetting the peace of that day. People prayed in secret for a change from the old stories because they wanted a new finish to the cycle they had seen over and over again. In the middle of the chaos, a legendary figure appeared. A mysterious hero shining with holy light stood on top of a scary monument of dead enemies. He was wearing holy clothes and holding a sword that came from heaven as if he had seen this coming. He took a determined leap into what was meant to be the final fight between good and evil, between the hero and the Demon King. As soon as their swords touched, the sky lit up in a beautiful blaze that bathed the world below. The hero defeated the Demon King in a heroic act that would be remembered for all time. The Demon King then went into hell and fell asleep, but his sleep was short, so the cliché came true again. There was peace in the world, and the hero's story became a legend. Time moved the world forward like a river, taking us to a time very different from the days of prophecy. In the present, there was a disturbance in the dark halls of the underground. A smaller demon walked nervously up to the throne and told the Lord of Darkness, Demiourgos the 666th, about a major problem. The Lord of Darkness, who was wearing battle-worn armor, asked what was going on. The devil, who was shaking, showed a piece of paper with strange and surprising writing on it. I stopped being a Demon King. Don't look for me, you stupid people, it said. It was Demiourgos' sudden departure, and he was known for being very rebellious. After hearing those words, the royal fiend was confused. The real Demon King, on the other hand, found comfort in a place that wasn't like his own, a bright white castle that was bathed in sunlight. As he looked at the grandeur of Aroma Castle in the Verde Kingdom, he thought about the human realm he had heard about. He thought about what to do next in a world that was both strangely appealing and unfamiliar. The disguised Demon King stopped dancing and partying carelessly when he looked up and saw the Holy Cross on top of a nearby church. His eyes briefly hardened as he saw it, but he quickly turned his attention away when someone called out to him. Someone asked, "Hey, country bumpkin, where did you come from?" It took a moment to understand where the question was coming from. The Demon King stood before two knights, giving off an air of power and suspicion. They questioned him about having the nerve to walk around so openly in front of the grand castle of Aroma. His face lit up with confusion as he thought about the insult. Country bumpkin? Could it be the way he dressed that got him that name? He told himself that his face was perfect with a mix of anger and what seemed like fear, hiding his confidence. The knights called him names and accused him of loitering. The Demon King, who was pleased with himself, knew he couldn't say that his real name was Demiourgos the 666th Demon King. Me, he said, pretending not to know while in his mind he made up a safe nickname. He chose the name Deus because, in his opinion, it was simple enough while still evoking a sense of old power. Just as he introduced himself, another figure approached, a knight adorned in golden armor followed by 4 soldiers. This was Count Bruno, a man whose legality was evident in his stance. Count Bruno, upon hearing the name Deus, warned the stranger of the weight such a claim carried in the Verde Kingdom, offering a chance for forgiveness should the Demon King depart forthwith. The disguised ruler, Deus, inquired provocatively about the kingdom's strength and whether it was formidable enough to accept him as its king. Count Bruno, incensed by the insolence and perceived mockery of the royal lineage, unsheathed his sword, threatening the stranger's life. Yet, in a flash of terrifying power from Deus's eyes, the inevitable happened. Count Bruno's head erupted in a gruesome spectacle as the soldiers turned in disbelief. Their fates mirrored their fallen leaders, their heads detonating in a cascade of horror, leaving the question Sir Bruno hanging unanswered in the bloodstained air. Deus hummed a song and smiled, but his laid-back attitude belied the bloody scene that was happening. The remaining 5 soldiers, their minds reeling from the inconceivable display of power, found no time to process their shock as their heads met the same explosive fate as their leaders. The melody continued, a deadly lullaby, and with each note, the heads of the soldiers burst as if in time with the grim rhythm. High atop the castle walls, the archers, gripped by urgency, knocked their arrows and let loose a volley aimed at the sinister figure below. Yet, as the arrows neared, they disintegrated, consumed by dark purple magic that shielded Deus. With another glance, a mere glare from the ominous being, the archers met the same gruesome end as their comrades below. It was then that Deus uttered a word that resonated with an eerie power. Arise as if they were bound by his command, the slain soldiers, now devoid of their heads, were compelled to form a grotesque display. Their bodies were arranged in a cross formation, face down, blood cascaded from their necks, a gruesome tribute to the one they were now forced to acknowledge as their new king. Deus's invocation turned the scene into a perverse coronation. The bodies lured forward, leaving a slick crimson trail across the bridge, a testament to the horror that had occurred. Alarm spread among the remaining forces as they called for reinforcements. Their voices tinged with panic, and confusion reigned as they grappled with the notion of an invasion. Their comrades outside, lifeless, the enemy already within their walls. The soldiers, armaments in hand, could scarcely believe the carnage before them. Fear clenched their hearts as the castle doors creaked open, only to be violently shattered from their hinges. Deus, now levitating with an eerie grace, wore a smile that heralded further doom. He invited them to turn their screams into fanfares for his arrival. Their screams were short-lived, however, as a horde of spectral skulls poured through the breached gate. The relentless wave of the undead showed no mercy, tearing through the ranks of soldiers with relentless ferocity, leaving behind a scene of unbridled devastation. The soldiers, overwhelmed by fear, pleaded for salvation. Their cries pierced the tumultuous scene, but no mercy came. Instead, they were torn asunder, their heads cleaved from their bodies, their flesh rendered by the relentless forces of undead sorcery. Madness, chaos, and agony reigned as the once mighty warriors were reduced to mere fragments of their former selves. Amidst this carnage, some soldiers found themselves praying for a swift end to their torment, yearning for the release of death to liberate them from the unbearable pain. At the center of this maelstrom stood Deus, his face a serene canvas adorned with a peaceful smile that glinted amidst the horror. At that moment, a voice spoke out of faith, cutting through the screams and the sound of flesh being torn apart. A knight adorned in golden armor and wielding a holy sword knelt in prayer amidst the chaos. His chant was a beacon of hope, invoking the name of the Almighty Creator, beseeching guidance from the Eternal Master to steer them from darkness and into the light of truth, to emerge victorious against the shadow that enveloped them. This pious warrior, bathed in a celestial glow, continued his supplication, calling upon the divine to overcome death and deceit. As he drew his sacred blade, a surge of holy radiance emanated from his being, casting a beam of purifying light into the heavens. The assembled soldiers witnessing this display wondered if this was the fabled aura, the blood of the virtuous they had only heard tales of. With holy symbols emblazoned upon his visage, the knight declared his ignorance of Deus's identity but recognized the taint of dark magic. Ready to unleash his divine retribution, the knight affirmed that no matter the foe's might, he would not breach the castle's defenses nor overcome one blessed by the gods. Propelled by faith, he leaped into the air, a herald of the divine, and with a mighty cry declared his intent to vanquish the darkness. His sword, now an extension of his righteous will, descended with a force that cleaved through the air, igniting the ground with an explosion of sacred light. The impact shattered the very bedrock, scattering holy illumination far and wide, inflicting vast devastation upon the land and challenging the dark presence of Deus with the unyielding might of the holy. Looking upwards, the golden-clad knight believed his mighty blow had secured victory over the dark entity before him. To his dismay, a voice shattered his moment of triumph. Deus, unaffected, trivialized the knight's attack as nothing more than a trifling effort. To the knight's horror, Deus was effortlessly pinching the very tip of the holy sword between his fingers, questioning if it was now his turn to strike. With a mocking prayer, Deus sarcastically said the Lord's Prayer, only to abruptly dismiss the plea and say, "God, please kill this idiot," then demonstrating a chilling display of power. Before the knight could react, Deus had carved a gaping chasm within him, effortlessly shattering the holy sword and plucking the still-beating heart from the knight's chest. With a gaze that could freeze blood, Deus admonished the knight for daring to invoke the divine and, with a merciless squeeze, ended the knight's life, his heart bursting into oblivion. Deus then addressed the remaining knights who had formed a protective circle around their king. The knights, desperate and defiant, urged one another to stand firm for the final stand, to guard their sovereign with their lives. The king, caught amidst the turmoil, questioned the identity of the intruder. Deus approached with a casual stride, seemingly intrigued by the king's presence, and suggested a conversation. As a knight rebuked Deus for his insolence, a mere flick of Deus's finger was enough to detonate the heads of the outspoken knights, silencing them mid-cry. The remaining knights, consumed by a mix of anger and helplessness, found themselves speechless, knowing any objection might lead to their immediate demise. Seizing the deafening silence, Deus unfurled demonic wings and soared over the knights' heads, landing with imposing grace upon the king. With the sovereign now beneath him, Deus looked down, a predator regarding his cornered prey. It was impossible to ignore the stress because the king's life was in such danger. With a sarcastic laugh, Deus suggested that they start talking. The elderly king, trembling with fear for his life, hastily offered whatever Deus might desire: wealth, titles, anything within his royal capacity. Deus, with a smirk, had but a single demand: the surrender of the kingdom itself. The king protested, claiming such a request was impossible, to which Deus responded dismissively, suggesting death as an alternative. If the king were to die, Deus reasoned, the royal lineage would naturally fall to him. When the king realized what this meant, he began to fully crash out. He accused Deus of wanting him, his daughter. He cried out in fear, his tears and snot streaming down his face. But Deus was indifferent to the king's assumptions. He had no interest in the princess. He was unaware of her existence. The king, desperate to protect his daughter, proclaimed her the pride of their nation, the jewel of the royal family. Yet Deus reiterated his disinterest. It was not the princess he required, but the power and position of the royal family itself. He challenged the king's claim to the land, suggesting that the royal family too had once seized it from others. He demanded that the king relinquish the throne that had been enjoyed for decades. The king defiantly questioned whether the people, the Sanctus Maximus populace, would ever recognize Deus as their ruler. Deus, amused by the king's mention of the people's allegiance, unleashed a burst of demonic energy so powerful that it obliterated the castle. The sacred cross at the top of the church shattered, and a colossal explosion consumed everything in its vicinity. When the dust settled, all that remained were charred remains and a raging inferno. Deus, turning to survey the destruction he had wrought, saw the kingdom he intended to claim now laid before him, silent and decimated. Deus cast a glance at the charred remains of the once formidable king, noting with a hint of mockery that the monarch lacked the fortitude even for a few more seconds of life. How boring, he mused, turning away from the smoldering carnage to address the heavens with a shout of disappointment. "Hey God, I'm let down by these mortals," he declared, his eyes fixating on a beam of light breaking through the clouds, half expecting the divine to answer his bold taunt. But no response came, and he mused on the long wait until pure blood might rise to challenge him, pondering whether 20 more years would pass before he descended as usual. But his reverie was interrupted by the sound of anguished cries. Deus turned to discover the source, a young girl with golden locks arrayed in a luxurious white dress, her sobs piercing the silence. It was the princess, the king's daughter, with eyes as blue as the ribbons that adorned her hair. She confronted the destructor of her world, demanding to know the identity of her family's ruiner. As Deus regarded her, he questioned her identity in turn, and the scene shifted, bringing forth the tale of the lowliest demons and the first war that plunged into the depths of the demonic realm. The narrative followed the broken soul of a demon king as it descended a stairway into hell to be encased in a new vessel for a century. This new form was infused with potent magic and curses until it was time for resurrection, thus birthing a new demon king, perpetuating the endless cycle. And then came the Second War, a time when heroes seemed extinct, and the demons believed they could finally revel in the lands of the living. In a surprising twist of fate, just as the demons began to revel in their apparent victory, another hero emerged, one imbued with the same divine powers as his predecessors. This hero, wielding an inconceivable amount of magical energy and brandishing abilities of the highest divine order, managed to battle his way through to the ultimate confrontation with the Demon King. Despite being riddled with arrows, his body on the brink of collapse, and his voice barely a whisper, the hero's spirit remained unyielding. The sheer determination in his eyes suggested a resilience that bordered on the supernatural. No deity needed to endorse his resolve. The Demon King, after countless resurrections, initiating wars, spreading famine, and sowing discord across the land, faced defeat once more. The cycle was relentless. The Demon King would fall, and a new one would rise from the ashes of the old, nurtured by a century of dark enchantments. And so it went, time after time. A new hero would appear, each one more valiant than the last, clad in ever finer armor, shielded by an ever brighter aura of sacred light. They all shared the conviction that they could be the ones to end the reign of the Demon King. But despite their efforts, the cycle persisted, a seemingly endless loop that unfolded over 6,580 years, with the story of the hero's triumph becoming an all-too predictable cliché in this era of complacency, where people believed a hero would always rise to save them, and the underworld held hope that perhaps this time would be the last. The narrative shifted focus to Deus, encased within a crystalline prison. The demon worshippers chanted with fervor, calling forth their new king. They channeled all their energies into the crystal, seeking to resurrect the 666th Demon King, Demiourgos. As the chants crescendoed, Demiourgos, the 666th, was reborn. His name echoed through the halls of the underworld as the latest in the line of dark sovereigns. Wearied by the incessant cycle and the farcical role he was expected to play, he penned a letter that would ripple through the demonic ranks with the force of a tempest. It read, "I'm done with this Demon King business. Don't look for me, you fools. Peace out." And with that, the 666th Demon King signed off, leaving his minions wailing in disbelief. Transitioning back to the present, the aftermath of Demo's wrath lay bare for all to see, the castle in ruins. It was then that the previous king's daughter, Princess April, approached the formidable Demiourgos. Though her defiance seemed futile, she demanded to know the fate of her father, prompting Demiourgos to recall the king's warning to keep his hands off his prized daughter, the continent's pride, and the family's cherished bloom. Recognizing her as Princess April and with the king now dead, Demiourgos contemplated the idea of taking her along to secure his ascent to the throne. Overcome with grief and vulnerability, April confronted him, but with a mere flick of his finger, Demiourgos cast a hollowing spell upon her. Her eyes grew vacant, her spirit subdued, and she kneeled obediently before him, proclaiming her body at his command. Demiourgos descended from his flight, lifted her chin to meet his gaze, and declared her his first human subject. April, now ensnared within his will, expressed her gratitude as they drew near. Demiourgos peered into her soul, fully aware of his dominance and far from any notions of subservience. However, his attention shifted as he detected an intrusion upon this scene of conquest. He warned the hidden onlookers to reveal themselves or face a gruesome fate. In the shadows, a disturbance in the fabric of space appeared where dark and violet magic swirled, and a voice chuckled, acknowledging the Lord's perceptiveness. As the portal widened, out stepped one of Demiourgos' own, a demon dressed in the height of infernal fashion. Removing his hat, the demon greeted his master, adding yet another layer to the unfolding narrative of power and dominion. The scene shifted as Demiourgos turned to face the newcomer, a demon who introduced himself with a subservient bow. "Your loyal subject Alex greets you, my lord Deus," he said with a flourish. Deus, with a hint of irritation, accused Alex of shadowing him, to which Alex fervently replied, "You're upsetting me, my lord. Wherever you go, I am always with you." Deus dismissed the sentiment as nonsense, accusing Alex of loyalty to his father rather than to himself. But Alex, bowing his head, professed his allegiance, claiming that Deus's lineage alone commanded his servitude. Deus, unconvinced, told Alex to leave, declaring his intent to never return to the demonic realm. Alex accepted this without protest, vowing to follow Deus's orders regardless. This surprised Deus, who had expected resistance. The conversation took a turn when Alex gestured towards the princess and suggested that Deus was about to plant his mighty seed. As he conjured a drink from thin air, Alex embarked on a dramatic monologue nostalgically recalling his time by Deus's side throughout the 80 years of the demonic soul period. He spoke of his self-proclaimed sacrifices, claiming that he had breastfed Deus, transforming his own body to nourish him, offering guidance through an affectionate education. Deus, however, remembered a starkly different upbringing, one where Alex subjected him to harsh treatment, doling out beatings and even casting him into the bloody confines of a torture chamber. As Alex wove his tale, embellishing his role as a nurturing figure, Deus interjected, accusing Alex of being the very bastard who had thrust him into the egg of awakening, binding, and imprisoning him. Despite Deus's accusations, Alex continued his sentimental narrative, reminiscing about Deus's childhood and expressing a dramatic sense of pride and emotion at his ward's growth and newfound interest in women. This display of emotion belied the harsh reality of Deus's upbringing and the twisted dynamic of their relationship. Deus, his patience fraying, commanded Alex to silence his theatrics and made it unequivocally clear that he had renounced his title as Demon King. From that day forth, he proclaimed he'd live as a mere mortal. Alex, ever the obsequious servant, agreed readily to his lord's declaration, prompting Deus to suspect hidden motives. Growing incensed, Deus unleashed his magic upon Alex, demanding to know his true intentions. Alex, caught in the magical onslaught, could only laugh before confessing his curiosity about Deus's sudden attack on the kingdom. Deus admitted without pretense that there was no grand scheme behind his actions. He merely aspired to a kingly life in his newfound human existence. Alex, to Deus's astonishment, applauded the ambition, piling Deus for seizing the largest kingdom, slaying its king, and claiming the princess upon his arrival on Earth, a feat he deemed devilishly fitting for a demon king. The praise, however, only served to nauseate Deus, who felt mocked by the implications of his actions. Alex, seizing the moment, then unveiled his grand plan to take Deus's hypothetical son to the demonic realm, groom him as the next demon king, and ensure his descent to Earth 20 years hence to fulfill the destiny Deus himself had forsaken. This revelation left Deus dumbfounded, and as he processed the audacious plot, his gaze shifted to April. There she was, still and silent, a mere shell of a princess unwittingly caught in the middle of a plot that spanned realms and generations. In a moment of clarity, Deus comprehended the full extent of the conspiracy he had nearly become entangled in. As he observed April's beauty, a realization struck him with comic timing. He had narrowly escaped fatherhood at the tender age of 80. He chuckled at the thought of such a close call, but his mirth was short-lived. Alex, ever the watchful servant, attempted to interject, only to be silenced by Deus's fierce command. With a roar, Deus unleashed a torrent of destructive energy that ripped through the castle and ravaged the town beyond. The power of the blast didn't stop there. It carved a path of ruin through distant mountains, showcasing the might of the Demon King. Alex watched in awe, struck by the raw strength of his master. It dawned on him that despite Deus not having reached his full potential, his power was immense. This realization sparked hope in Alex. Perhaps the 666th incarnation of the Demon King could finally turn the tides against the perennial hero. Deus seizing upon the notion of standing out too much, Deus concocted a cunning strategy. He would align himself with the hero, becoming an ally in the fight for justice. By doing so, he would ensure recognition for his efforts while cleverly remaining in the background, avoiding the spotlight that might reveal his true identity. With a sly grin, Deus outlined his plan to enjoy the fruits of victory without drawing undue attention to himself. "You do the hard work. I get the glory," he declared, reveling in the simplicity of his deceitful scheme and laughing with wild abandon at the prospect of such an ingenious subterfuge. Alex clutched desperately at the Demon King, his grip fueled by deep concern. He argued that without a Demon King, there could be no hero, and the very concept of becoming the hero's ally was absurd. "Please come to your senses, my lord," he implored. But Deus, unswayed and impatient, physically ousted Alex, declaring their next move was to seek out the hero. When Alex inquired about the fate of Princess April, Deus showed little concern, instructing Alex to handle the matter himself. Alex, puzzled, referenced her supposed importance, but Deus dismissed it as a mere ruse. The narrative then shifted, ascending to a higher plane where an enigmatic figure studied the unfolding events through an orb. This entity, observing Deus, Alex, and Princess April, mused on the apparent flaws of the 66th Demon King, noting his lowly origins and questioning his intellect. The figure lamented the situation but expressed a singular interest in Deus's powers. "Thanks for appearing at just the right time," the person spoke, hinting at an intention to usurp those powers. "Sorry, but I'll be borrowing your strength for a while," they continued, confident in the assumption that Deus would eventually acquiesce, for in their view, all of existence served their grand design. On the road, Deus began singing about finding the hero while mocking him as dumb and stupid. He then yawned, prompting Alex to question why they were using a carriage when they could simply fly. Deus called Alex a dummy, questioning if he planned on publicly declaring he's a demon everywhere they go. Suddenly, Alex pointed at the destroyed castle, attributing its destruction to Deus and remarking, "A person worrying about such things turned a castle into a burning hell." Brushing it off, Alex asked if Deus was really going to be the companion of a hero. Deus affirmed, stating that it's okay to be a companion even without the blood and expressing a desire for a simple life among the top 2% of wealthy people, with a stand in handling the monster slaying at the forefront. Alex doubted reaching the top 2% even as a hero's companion. Deus assured him, mentioning the presence of the previous Demon King and one of the greatest 7 in the demon world, suggesting there was nothing to worry about. He believed the hero could easily dispatch a dragon with their help from the sideline. Alex, recalling Deus' earlier desire to be human, questioned if he planned to use magic. Deus responded, questioning why he wouldn't use the abilities he possessed, adding that's why they lost 665 times. He then brushed it off and asked if the hero had something like a ranking system. Alex replied, "Yes, they indeed have a ranking system." Deus then inquired if it was similar to a rank and B rank, to which Alex responded, "Something like that." He explained that the first is a D-rank dragon slayer, standing for one who can slay a dragon. Deus asked if it's like a title one gets when killing a dragon, but Alex clarified that currently, dragons are neutral to both demons and humans. Dragons only attack villages in old stories, indicating their power to kill one. The next rank is G rank, a giant slayer capable of fighting giants. Following that is L rank, a lich slayer able to kill a lich. Deus questioned why there were so many ranks and if there were more. Alex stated, after that, they're just in alphabetical order. He added that the last rank is F rank, called failed products. If they were fruits, they'd be the fallen ones since they don't sell. They're ground up and made into jam. Deus remarked that it must be sad, and Alex further explained that the higher your ranking is, the more support you can receive from nobles or obtain a position in the country. Not only would failures be neglected for support, but they're an unwanted rank that people hope would disappear. The human world is pretty cutthroat. Alex continued, emphasizing that there's something more critical than the hero ranking, that is blood. The closer one is to pure blood, the stronger one becomes. The first ones who saved the world 66,580 years ago, the two saviors, the hero and the priestess, their children and their descendants continuing the bloodline, the holy blood. They measure how much of their blood is left in the families. The purer the blood, the stronger the aura they can use. The one with the purest blood became the hero, fighting the general and winning 665 times. Then taking the purity level of one's blood into account, whoever is closest to being pure blood will have a higher hero rank. There are exceptions, but usually, the purer the blood, the stronger you are. Deus then inquires about the significance of this blood or pure blood concept. Alex explains that everyone takes it seriously, putting their life and pride on the line. In the end, the hero and the Demon King will fight. People have been fighting for 60,000 years, all because of this one sentence. It was a promise. Deus questions why they can't just live a simple life like this carriage, slow and relaxing. Suddenly, something catches his attention. He then gets up and points at a butterfly, asking Alex what this leafy thing flying around is. Since Deus was stuck in an egg for 80 years due to the war, he remained ignorant of the world. A butterfly landed on his finger. Alex informed Deus of its identity. Suddenly, a gust of wind caused the butterfly to flutter off Deus' finger. Confused, Deus asked Alex, "What was that just now?" "The thing that flew by messing up my hair." Alex explained it was the wind. Deus looked up at the sky and asked, "What's that thing that's been floating above our heads since earlier?" "The circular thing that makes my eyes hurt when I stare at it." Alex responded, "That's the sun." Deus continued asking about a sweet scent that made his heart flutter. Alex explained, "That's the scent of spring." Deus then inquired about Alex's long life. Alex confirmed he was born after the first war in the demon world. Deus suggested, "You must have come up here once every 100 years. He expressed admiration for the surface, saying the previous demon kings probably never experienced such feelings. He reflected on his fate, mentioning that if things had gone as planned, he would have been trapped for 2 more decades, destined to die at the hands of a hero he had never met. Grateful for escaping that fate, he declared that being a demon god is a job that should disappear. He asked Alex if he agreed. Alex looked at him in silence, and then Deus brushed it off, saying that he was going to get some sleep and asking Alex to wake him up when they arrived. He's saying this just in case, but if he takes him back to the demon world, they'll both die. Alex then sighed and answered, "Yes, my lord," as their carriage navigated through the beautiful road. After a while, the carriage stopped, and then Alex woke him up, telling him that they had arrived. Alex then informed him that this is the place Deus described, a countryside village called Zorix, with little trade that isn't a militarized zone. "Zorix, it's not that bad," Deus said with a morning face. As the carriage entered the village, he asked about the heroes who lived in this village to Alex. Alex answered that there are only 2 families here, an A-rank family that's close to being a G-rank and a fallen family. "Looks like there isn't a D-rank family," Deus says. Alex answered that if there were a D-rank at every castle, their demon army wouldn't even think of stepping foot on the surface. Deus accuses the devil army of being cowardly. In response to Alex's yes when asked if D-ranks are so powerful, Deus is abruptly drawn into a discussion. People were speculating as to whether or not they had heard that a dragon had assaulted Trier Castle. A man wonders how this could have happened and warns that they shouldn't approach Trier Castle just yet because they haven't captured the dragon. According to another individual, he has also heard rumors that the castle was partially destroyed in a fire. Finally, a girl asks how dragons came to be extinct so long ago. As she continues to worry about the topic, A man replies by saying that the old tales say that this is the time of the dragon's return, and if that's the case, it will be terrible. As Deus gestures toward the humans, he reveals his belief that the dragons are apolitical. Yes, I shared that thought, Alex says. Something must have transpired in the 80 years since his previous surface appearance. The group persisted in their chat, voicing their worry that they shouldn't rush to inform the people of Sanctus Maximus and request the deployment of a D-rank hero. I can't believe they have no idea that our hero has already defeated the D-rank hero and wiped out the whole Sanctus Maximus population. They continued their search and eventually settled on this hotel as the best option in the area. Deus then instructed Alex to begin addressing him as master rather than my lord going forward. They were greeted with a warm welcome to their golden pavilion by the receptionist. Without hesitation, Alex asked for a penthouse. Behind closed doors, the receptionist was fuming, asking herself, "What's up with those things they're wearing? They're just some random country bumpkins, aren't they?" He pretended to chuckle and said they must have traveled a long way to get to the penthouse, adding that it was a bit pricey. In an abrupt motion, Alex discarded a crate containing the riches they had plucked from Arcoma Castle. The man screamed at the staff, saying, "Holy moly. Upon seeing the sum of money, I thought you were supposed to accompany the client." The worker was in such a rush to accompany them that he lost his footing and fell. Zeke Pan Hollybish was the name the worker gave himself when he stood up to meet them. Before leading them to their apartment, he requested that they address him as Zeke and seize their belongings. Zeke said on the way up that the news about Trier Castle has made things a little rocky. There was no need for alarm when a legendary dragon showed up. After all, their village was home to a famous A-rank family that was practically G-rank, so everyone could rest easy. They were welcomed to the penthouse, the crown jewel of their golden pavilion, as soon as they arrived at their door by him who opened it. Since this was his first time supervising someone of such noble lineage, he was nervous about living up to their high standards, but he nevertheless told them he would try his best to meet their demands and encouraged them to contact him whenever they needed him. Once Deus wanted to know if Zeke had the blood, he gave him a call. Zeke was about to reply when Deus saw the discrepancy and made a joke about how, of the two hero families in Zorix, Zeke was probably associated with the fallen family. Deus inquired about Zeke's blood purity level because he had speculated about Zeke's family having low purity for decades. Zeke, who was visibly embarrassed, identified himself as a failed product and confessed that he was just an F rank. The room went up in flames in an instant, startling Zeke but leaving the other two unfazed. The dragon had only just arrived in the settlement when it unleashed its wrath and destroyed everything in its path with its blazing wings. Panicked to death, Zeke saw people fleeing for their lives on the streets. Zeke warned Deus and Alex in an instant that they needed to get out of there fast. Surprisingly, despite the danger, the two seemed unconcerned and were arguing. Demiourgos promised Zeke that he would be Zeke's ally and help him become a hero after the mayhem subsided. He said he had been looking for a hero and that this meeting seemed destined to happen. Zeke was enticed by Deus' offer, which promised him fame and fortune beyond his wildest dreams. Even though Zeke had never touched a sword in his life, he threatened to remove the cursed unsuccessful product title from Zeke's name and asked if Zeke wanted to spend the rest of his life as an F rank. This was portrayed by Deus as a chance that would never come again, which brought up memories of people dismissing F ranks and calling them failures. In the face of this incredible opportunity, Zeke knelt and begged Deus for help. He admitted he was an F rank but promised Deus he would make the most of his opportunity. Deus, who was laughing, said that he would beg for Zeke's soul anyhow. In response to his offer, Zeke was to make his debut on this stage according to Deus, whose purpose it was to slay the dragon. Deus put up his hand and proposed a 5-condition contract. Zeke, shocked, proposed something along the lines of goblins as an alternative. Party A was named Deus, and Party B was named Zeke Pan Hylibic in the treaty as a hero's sidekick. Party B would accompany Party A, and when Party A gave the order, Party B would follow it to the letter. Only Party A has the power to end the contract, and the partnership could go on forever if Party A so chooses. Party A decided that Party B would get half of the glory and riches from their travels. The aforementioned parameters were met without any complaints from Party B. Their partnership was formalized by this contract, which laid out the conditions and responsibilities of each partner. Deus gives him the contract and says to put his signature on it if he accepts it. After that, the deal is sealed. Zeke hesitates for a second, but, in the end, he joyously shouts Zeke Pan Hollybish to accept the contract and live out his hero dreams. It is time for Zeke to make his debut, he says with a smile. Zeke has to kill the dragon that he points out to him. You make a good point when you say that humans usually aren't very good at killing dragons. Deus proposes a plan. They will take care of the dragon so Zeke doesn't have to kill it. He lays out the strategy. Alex plans to face the dragon head-on, vanquish it, and then set it down in Zeke's path. Zeke will pretend to defeat the descending dragon by swinging his sword at it while he stands in one spot. Concerned that people would be suspicious if an F-rank like Zeke slays a dragon, Alex raises concerns upon hearing the idea. He continues by saying that he can't possibly live in peace as a D-rank hero companion. Deus looks at Zeke with an unsettling expression on his face and then, out of the blue, rips his clothing off. Not content to rest on his laurels, he proceeds to seize a pot, puncture it twice with his laser eyes, set it atop Zeke's head, and garb himself like a superhero with Zeke's bellboy suit tied around his neck. These changes allow Zeke to assume the identity of Pot Man, the masked hero. If a hero wants to be anonymous, Deus says, they need to wear nothing but a cape and underwear. He thinks things might get even more interesting if a new unknown hero showed up from out of nowhere. Following this, Alex offers to bring the dragon over, and Deus just says, okay, to indicate his acceptance. After Alex leaves, Deus looks to Zeke and says they should go downstairs. Zeke wonders aloud if they are truly going out in such a manner since he feels ashamed of his unconventional attire for dragon combat. Deus then points to a broom in the vicinity, kicks it at Zeke, and claims it as his sacred weapon. Even though Zeke is extremely embarrassed, Deus tells him to hold the improvised sword and promises that fame and money beyond his wildest dreams will come his way regardless of how close the dragon gets. Zeke felt something strange, but he couldn't put his finger on it, as if he could suddenly crush anything that crossed his path. He clamped down his fists, an intense yearning. Surely it was a result of Zeke's genetic makeup, the heroic inclinations that had lain dormant in his hemoglobin. The hero's desire to slay the Demon King in front of him is evident in his blood, but Zeke probably thought this since he didn't know any better. Being famous and wealthy thrilled bro, he is currently building up the confidence and belief that he can truly accomplish it. Zeke responded with a simple, yes, master, when Deus suddenly summoned him. He was instructed, go, my dog, by Demiourgos. Zeke took off running while bed like a dog. Meanwhile, those on the outside were trying to stay alive in this hole by covering themselves in fear and hoping for the best. As it soared above the village, the dragon unleashed a torrent of fire. Alex materialized from a sky portal that had suddenly materialized. From where he stood, he watched the hideous creature. All of a sudden, Alex rested a hand on his shoulder, drew off his coat, and exposed 13 concealed hands. With his body prepared, he leaped at the dragon and landed on its neck. With an upward motion, he thrust his hands into the dragon's chest, intending to strike its heart. With the dragon's heart in his grasp, Alex spoke up, saying that the creature shouldn't fight him now that he had it. Then he posed a question. What brought you here? The people and the dragons made a pact, didn't they? After taking a glance, Alex saw something purple like a parasite connected to the dragon's body. His eyes widened in shock. Infested with that parasite, the dragon began to speak a language no one could decipher, asking how a dragon of his ilk could understand such a vile language. Alex took a grave expression on his face. A faster flight was achieved when the dragon enhanced its speed. At the same time, Zeke stood on the lower ground waiting. People who had taken cover in their homes began to wonder who he was and why he had come out of hiding all of a sudden. Concerned about his heroism and whether he was attempting to face the dragon alone, they questioned him. After that, they noticed his clothing, which gave him a more villainous than heroic appearance. Zeke looked humiliated and felt weird inside as he heard those comments. At this point, shame and terror were entangled. Hey there, masked hero, keep it up, Deus said from an adjacent seat. Go save Zoiix for us. A wave of relief washed over the people as they began to believe, thanks to Demiourgos' remarks, that Zeke was a true hero. Zeke, who was holding his broom firmly, said that he could not afford to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. All he could think about were fame and wealth. At the same time as it was snarling and spitting flames, the dragon persisted in flying carelessly through the air. Alex made the observation that it would be difficult to control. He felt helpless since things had reached this point. All of a sudden, his back began to move, and a plethora of hands sprung out from behind him. 100 evil hands constricting poison was how he described this maneuver. The assault by Alex caused the dragon to squawk. Alex unleashed another scream from the dragon by using his remaining hand to perform a maneuver called heart-piercing. All of a sudden, his focus is drawn to something. Alex is currently undergoing a parasite transfer from the dragon. It is purple in color. Prepare is the only word the dragon can muster. The one who was believed to be dead has definitely returned, as I witnessed firsthand this untruth. Similar to its last attempt to manipulate the dragon, the purple creature flings itself against Alex's face. It was this monster Alex had learned that unleashed the dragons on humanity out of nowhere. As this is happening, Deus watches and wonders what Alex will do next. The crowd is waiting impatiently, so Deus begs him to come down quickly as he asks why it's taking so long to kill just one dragon. Deus picks his nose and wears an expression of complete foolishness. The dragon's purple eyes drained of light as Alex shattered every bone in it with his 100 hands, and then it started growling. Now that it couldn't fly, the dragon fell fast. Deus then summoned Zeke and told him to be prepared for the dragon was coming. Timing and a controlled swing are crucial, he said. Zeke was reluctant to face death as the dragon drew near. Deus assured Zeke with a chuckle that he had sworn to defend him with his own life on the line. Something in Zeke's blood started to glow when he heard this. With a firm grip on his broom, he reassured himself that he could handle the imminent test as the parasite consumed him. Alex persisted in fighting for his life. Shortly after, the parasite took over his left side, changing his hands and sprouting eyes. Alex found himself in a precarious position as a conflict erupted between his regular and possessed hands. Alex drew on his talent. Out of the blue, he was able to detach numerous parasite pieces from his body with the help of 1,000 glow whip and 100 demonic hands. Sadly, a fragment stuck to his countenance. He reached for it and yanked desperately, trying to free himself. Deus, concerned that their hero may be crushed, saw the dragon's descent speed and advised Alex to be careful. The spectators screeched in terror as the dragon closed in, and Alex fought desperately to get away. A few were getting ready to hide in the cellar. In the face of imminent peril, Zeke held firm, standing up from his seat. Deus yelled out Alex's name, challenging his behavior and suggesting that he'd take it easy. Zeke, on the other hand, maintained his unwavering resolve and refused to budge. With a single blow, he would vanquish the dragon, he swore. An ancient family secret known as Moonlight Glow was revealed in a short flashback in which Zeke's father warned him to be cautious and shared the skill with him. The father emphasized the importance of Zeke mastering this method to ward off any possible invasion by the army of the Demon King. Because of the country's limits, Zeke's neighbors doubted that he could take part in the Demon King's subjugation, which worried young Zeke. Assuring him that Zeke would surely become a heroic figure in the struggle against the Demon King, his father emphasized his family's holy ancestry. Accordingly, he ought to do adequately in his studies. Zeke says, "All right, Dad," while smiling. In the here and now, Zeke leaned back, raised his broom, and readied himself to unleash his Moonlight Glow attack. In the meanwhile, Alex removed the parasite from his face while Deus exploded the dragon's flesh with a talent called Doom's Guillotine. Zeke persisted in his assault using the Demon King's splitter, slashing down until the dragon's torso exploded and blood spurted out in all directions. Zeke let out a startled scream while keeping his eyes shut. When he opened them, he beheld the landscape stained with the dragon's blood. He pierced through them and saw the dragon's blood all over the place. His focus turned to the jubilant crowd who were praising him for vanquishing the dragon. They claimed he was a divinely sent hero. Deus pretended to clear his throat to get Zeke's attention. As he blushed from the compliments, he said, "Masked hero, shouldn't you change into your disguise and hide?" Deus questioned. Zeke responded, Absolutely." His face contorted with shame. In an effort to gather clothing, he began to flee as the parasite's purple marks appeared. Alex stood silently atop the chapel. The dragon's voice proclaimed, "The one who was considered to be dead has returned," as he gazed downward at it. Deus stretched his hands the moment he awoke the following day after a restful snooze. Out of nowhere, Alex walked in with a drink and told Deus that most people drink coffee first thing in the morning. Zeke walked into the room at that very moment, sounding the alarm. As he smiled and blushed, he said that the entire town had been looking for the disguised hero who they saw as their savior. Deus noticed the filthiness of Zeke's clothing and asked him about it with a smile on his face. Zeke stated that he had been helping clean up the town after yesterday's catastrophe left it in ruins. "Well, it's all right," Deus said, taking into account the high wages associated with physical labor. "The course of events is precisely as I had anticipated." With a wink, he conveyed his delight at waking up to the sun's rays and sipping his coffee in the morning light. Deus remarked on how pleasant mornings are on the surface, and Alex disclosed that the coffee was brewed using the tongue and left eyeball of a dragon. Deus was pleased with the flavor. The villagers, meanwhile, were hard at work fixing the damage that the dragon had done the night before. Some people gripe about how heavy items are, while others advise them to get moving unless they want to spend the night doing this. To encourage the guys to eat before working hard, the wives and children arrive bearing food. Zeke is likewise hard at work pulling rocks while an obese guy gives him orders. Deus, who is sitting nearby, remarks that they're putting in a lot of effort to attempt to restore this uninspiring community. He takes note of Zeke's diligent efforts as well. Alex nods in agreement and continues by saying that he mentioned his history of odd jobs to Zeke yesterday during their conversation. Due to financial constraints, his family had to work hard to raise a hero. He helped out around the house by performing chores like laundry, cleaning, lumbering, and grave digging. It would be more efficient to just list everything he has not done so far. Deus proceeds to state that he has made a decision. Since they have discovered a hero and traveling is a pain, he says they will just begin in this town. It's nothing special, yet he finds pleasure in it in some way. He claims it marks the beginning of the human Deus. "Shall we get going?" he exclaims, jumping to his feet. "Let Zeke get to work." "Where to?" Alex wonders. "Of course, it's to go sell off the Dragonland," Deus says, his smile persisting. "Since it is used on equipment, doesn't dragon leather cost a pretty penny? I thought we were aiming to be among the wealthiest 2% of the population, weren't we?" Alex informs him, much to his surprise, that last night the Heroes Bureau stole it all. Furious, Alex rants about how regular people can't handle dragon remains because they're too powerful, as Deus says, and then we just went ahead and killed it. Alex asks anxiously, "Where are they going after?" He says, "We're going," in a frightening voice. Deus shocks Alex by saying they will destroy the Heroes Bureau, telling him that the Heroes Bureau is their main base. He tells him to calm down. Alex thinks it's insane for Deus to do it alone against the heroes, no matter how strong he is. He stresses the danger. The consequences for the heroes could be severe if they learn that the Demon King is not in his demon realm. After Deus mentions his prior statement about becoming a hero's sidekick, Alex brings it up again in a casual tone. Deus asks, "So, is it necessary to register with the Heroes Bureau to become a hero in the human sphere?" As Alex points out, who would recognize Zeke as a hero if the Heroes Bureau vanished? As Deus ponders this, Alex begins to question whether he has managed to prevent the demon race's annihilation. Deus suggests recovering damages from destroying another country. A brilliant thought. "I thought you were Deus, the human now, not Demiourgos, the Demon King," Alex says in confusion, his voice betraying his disbelief at the decision. Deus is adamant that the next day they will move forward. Deus is unmoved by Alex's suggestion that they travel back to the demon world. On the next day, they ride in a carriage as they take a road so beautiful like pictures. Alex tries to talk to Deus, but he doesn't hear back. As his anger builds, he yells out Deus's name until someone answers. After enjoying life on Earth for so long, Alex proposes a return to the underworld. Everyone in the demon realm is waiting for his return, he claims. He says that the doomed day will come in 20 years and that they must not squander time. To conquer the world, he tells him to quickly become an expert in the technique of the Demon King. Without showing any emotion, Deus says, "That's your problem." They want him to comply, but he doesn't see any reason to do so. He predicts the arrival of a demonic king who will launch an assault on the human realm. Deus, the entire demon realm, and the humans who are about to be attacked all accept this clear action as if it were breathing. As a counter-argument, Deus asks whether God is necessary if everything works out the way planned. He tells him to think about how a demon king isn't present and that it's a worthwhile experience. "It makes no difference who the girl is," Alex exclaims abruptly, interjecting, "You should have a son or daughter to resign from the 666 Demon King, right?" Deus shoots back, "What? Any girl in this day and age? How could you possibly use such language? Your demonic nature would be undeniable. You devil. Get the hell out of here." Unfazed, Alex dismisses him, maintaining his stance that he will remain until Deus names a successor for the underworld. Given his current behavior, Deus thinks he should live here indefinitely as a servant. Alex suggests that he look for a wife, a woman who would complement him well. If the subject of marriage comes up again, Deus threatens to destroy the demon world himself. Following that exchange, they walked silently through this breathtaking area covered with beautiful flowers. But does that even work? Deus suddenly asked, breaking the silence. Gazing at him, Alex inquired, "What are you referring to? Does that princess from before even work?" Deus nervously said, Alex perplexed, dared to inquire, "The princess." Deus timidly proceeded, "You know, Essex, his face contorted with embarrassment and anxiety. Curiosity piqued, and Alex asked, "Essex, what is that?" Embarrassing himself, Deus stood up abruptly to clarify that he was inquiring whether demons can impregnate humans. Unaware of his true motive, Alex insisted that demonic and human mating rituals are identical in most cases. He said, "A man's testicles will release sperm before he ejaculates. A kid is born 3,742 weeks after a sperm cell enters the uterus and penetrates the egg." Deus suggested foregoing sex education after hearing these remarks in one ear and then leaving the other. Furthermore, Alex verified that Deus possessed the ability to instantly transfer his demonic sperm into another person's body if he so desired. The success percentage of getting pregnant by direct sexual contact was 99.999%, while the success rate through a passionate kiss was 50%. There is a 25% probability that a girl can be impregnated by his looks as well. The idea that Deus's look can cause a pregnancy surprises him. When Deus hears from Alex that he may get pregnant just by shaking hands with a woman, he is taken aback and begins to wonder if his body was made for reproduction alone. He becomes angry and yells out a curse word, claiming that the purpose of this body is very clear: to kill and procreate. He becomes more and more unhappy with what he learns. According to Alex, God gave them this blessed body as a sign of hope and salvation for their demon realm. "Blessed, my asses," Deus says with a hint of sarcasm. Being nothing more than a reproduction machine every 100 years makes him uneasy. He says he feels uneasy about being held to high standards and questions the relevance of his thoughts in this context. They were both taken aback when they heard a girl's cries for help as she desperately tried to escape from a group of frightening-looking individuals. The girl was being pursued by mountain bandits, and she begged them to save her. Then Alex said, "It's a lovely woman in trouble," and he advised Deus to her aid. This prompted Deus to ask why he should. Alex said that positive things could happen at any moment. "Do you not see something fishy about this?" Deus asked. Alex inquired about its nature, perplexed. Deus provided an account of her rapid dash to them, pleading for assistance. The scenario in which the beautiful person begs for assistance while being pursued is the most cliché trope in fantasy literature, Alex shot back. Then what exactly is the issue? Deus noted that nothing is obstructing the views in their vicinity. So the question becomes, from where did they emerge? Continuing, he asked, "Do you really believe they wouldn't notice us the whole time they're after her? The forest is far away. Even if you can see it, I didn't see them, and neither did you." He was questioned by Deus as to whether he had orchestrated this ill-planned scheme. Deus explained his reasoning to Alex by saying, "Using that female to make me bear an heir." With a sigh, Alex asked himself what sort of person he thought he was, claiming to be Alex, the demon realm's top strategist. He warned that such a terrible notion would not be allowed to pass. "Sir Hero, I'm being chased by mountain bandits. Please help," the girl cried out as she rushed up to the wagon. Deus made it clear that he was only a friend to the hero. "Please, Sir Hero's friend, assist me," she pleaded as her tears streamed down her face. "I am being pursued by the mountain bandits." Deus told her that their group was too powerful to deal with mundane tasks like battling mountain robbers because they were a high-level dragon hunting party. The girl's frustration was palpable as she whispered, "Ah, what gives you the willies?" In an angry gesticulation, Deus asked if she had just cursed. Crying and denying it, she asked, "What on earth?" "Yes, the sidekick of Sir Hero. Assist this frail young damsel, please." The sudden impact of an axe on the wagon caught Deus's attention. There was a mocking laugh followed by the words, "Hey, little kids." While mocking Deus' pale visage, the mountain bandits told him to go lost with that crummy chariot or face certain death. They were asked by another robber whether they were from another planet or anything because of their strange clothing. Deus swore, "Burn for eternity," as he glared at the axe wielder responsible for the carriage's destruction. The man's pals were frantically trying to extinguish the fire when all of a sudden, he began to writhe in agony, engulfed in a blaze of purple flames. When Deus informed them that the fire was uncontrollable, they were all taken aback. No matter who they were or what magic they employed, he told them the fire would never go out, and the individual would remain burning until the world ended, inviting others to join him in eternal fire. He then questioned, who would be the next? The robbers didn't dally. They snatched Deus, their blazing buddy, and bolted for safety. Upon their departure, the girl beamed at Deus. He advised her to go on an adventure now that the bandits had left, but she begged him to wait. Then she told him that mountain bandits had captured their temple. The sacred artifact was taken from them, and all the priestesses had become slaves. She implored him to save their temple and free them from the clutches of the mountain bandits. Deus frowned and said he would rather not take on such a simple mission, picking his nose in the process. Frustrated, the girl clutched the carriage so tightly that it cracked slightly. Regardless, Deus insisted that they leave immediately, and Alex responded with a simple, "Yes, master." Out of the blue, she orders them to hold on and mentions that she overheard Deus bring up dragons before. She wonders if he is with a hero who's wearing nothing but his undies. According to her, the actual gold dragon, the deity of dragons, has his temple at the pinnacle of the dragons. He will be rewarded with the actual gold dragon's helmet if he helps drive away the mountain bandits. Deus hears that and chooses to grant her wish. Just a few moments after that, up the stairs, Maybe made out while Deus remained on his back. Alex, who is presently heaving and puffing, possesses these steps. In response to Alex's question about why they don't simply fly over, Deus says, "Come on, how can we fly? I am not the Demon King, after all." His back seems like it's going to crack, so Alex proposes he give him a true piggyback ride instead of simply standing on it. Alex, perspiring profusely, views the scenario with suspicion. He notes that the girl, who has a human body, has been running nonstop for 30 minutes on such a steep mountain. Deus continues by saying it makes no difference who she is. He has no idea what she's planning, but he would sever her head if she tells a lie, no matter how small. Did the dragons worship a deity, the god of dragons, the actual dragon? Deus asks. In response, Alex says no, drawing parallels to the adoration he receives from demons. There is only one dragon who truly reigns supreme, and that is the genuine gold dragon. According to him, there is only one deity in the universe, and God is the one responsible for creating everything in it, including people, dragons, and demons. So, isn't God exclusively looking out for humans? Deus asks as he surveys the heavens. According to him, the dragons and demons are merely supporting cast members. After that, Alex reassures him not to be skeptical, saying that God is perfect love and the sole source of truth. With God's favor, they will be favored if they can conquer the human world. Deus looks up and remarks, "That's one unusual way to demonstrate affection." Deus climbs on top of an exhausted Alex as he collapses to the ground at the peak of the mountain, accusing him of being weak. On the way down, he adds, he will also depend on him. Once Deus reaches the cave, he summons the girl and inquires about the whereabouts of the mountain bandits and the helmet of the real gold dragon. Kindly, he requests that she relinquish it. "Something isn't right," Alex says, "so we should be careful." All of a sudden, the cave door shuts, and they're alone in the dark until they hear giggles. The previous girl reverts to a normal shape and congratulates them on their achievement. "Huh," Deus responds. "It appears that you were the thief from the mountains who stormed the temple. Where does the helmet fit?" The girl confronts him, demanding an explanation for his continued indifference to the gravity of the situation. She then identifies herself as Law, the deity of dragons, and commands everyone to bow down to her, the one who governs all dragons, who is also their mother. The Golden Law, the one and only golden dragon, the genuine gold dragon. After Deus asked what was going on, Alex clarified that they had gotten themselves into a major jam. It was beyond their humble expectations, so Laura began to giggle and inquired whether they were astonished to show that she was not easily irritated. She advised them to beg if they were scared. Deus placed his palm on his chin and muttered, "Right? That is quite remarkable, Laura, the deity of dragons." She inquired if he had finally grasped the meaning of his remarks as she giggled. In that case, she would probably ask him to do something kind for her as a gesture of contrition. As if completely bewildered, Deus spoke the words, "Huh? What do you prefer? Something about Dragon Lord or Dragon Mother Lord?" "What I mean is that I would also enjoy a good title like that," he said. When he presented himself, he always felt like something was missing. He said, watching over everything from the world's shadows, the top 2% of deep dark alpha males. He wanted to identify himself in this way to set himself apart. Alex clapped his hands and responded, "Oh, as anticipated by my lord." In response to his question regarding Alex's thoughts on the matter, their lack of knowledge infuriated Laura. She screamed at them to shut up and stop being so ignorant. After asking, "Don't you have something to apologize for?" she pushed them to quickly apologize and ask for forgiveness. Deus stated that he didn't believe he had done anything to initiate contact with her and proceeded to inquire as to her motivations. "Remember yesterday when you slayed a dragon?" she asked, gesturing toward him. She made it clear that he had murdered one of her dragon offspring and that she was the dragon family matriarch. Deus then asked if she was causing such a ruckus just because of that. Suddenly, she got up and dashed towards him. Her face was near his, and she repeated his words, "Just because of that?" She said that he must have a death wish or something. Suddenly, a burst of flame surrounded them as she declared that this place was the Golden Jade Realm. Even if he is the Demon King, he stands no chance against her in this place. Alex was shocked and told Deus that this place was the territory of the Golden Dragon. They are inside her domain. Fighting her here is dangerous. Lore started laughing and then commended Alex for his knowledge. She told Deus to hurry up and kneel before her. To her bewilderment, Deus asked her if she was doing this despite knowing who he was. With a menacing tone, he said that if she was the true Golden Dragon, he could just take her face to use. He told her to prepare her face since he would be ripping her skin off her face. After hearing those words, she burst into anger, her eyes and veins turning red as she exclaimed, "You dare!"
Deus placed his finger on her lips and told her she should first apologize for her lies. Confused, she asked him what he was talking about. He stepped back and explained that he hadn't come to the surface to cause trouble. He just wanted to live among people as a hero's companion, observing from the shadows. With that in mind, he headed to the village, but her child, the dragon, emerged out of nowhere, burning and tearing everything down. He asked her what he was supposed to do then. His only choice was to act in self-defense. All the while, she didn't show her face as her child went on a rampage. She appeared only afterward, pretending to be a priestess and suddenly declaring, "I'm the true Golden Dragon." "Apologize," he continued, asking her if she thought he would accept it by saying, "Oh, Master True Golden Dragon, please forgive us just this once," or something similar. He asked her if she thought it was acceptable to do whatever she wanted just because she was a higher being. He then asked if all dragons were like her. Alex joined in, agreeing with Demiourgos. He said it was a huge miscommunication to think she could do as she pleased just because she had the power. He continued, stating that anyone would fight for their safety, no matter who it was, and that the dragons were the ones who broke the peace treaty in the first place. Therefore, they should be the ones apologizing. Demiourgos agreed, urging her to apologize quickly. Noticing her hesitation, he made a disgusted face and said that whenever you see a problem child, you can always tell the parents are the source. Nervously, she responded that she wasn't the real parent of the dragons. Alex then asked if she was trying to avoid her responsibilities, shocking her even more. He continued, asking if she wanted to exercise her rights as a god but didn't want the responsibility that came with it. Demiourgos joined in again, asking if she had seen that one show where they always blame the child for being problematic, but when you delve into it, it's always the parents who don't pay attention to their children until they cause trouble. He added that all the good parents were getting a bad reputation because of parents like her. Alex joined the conversation again. He said, "This isn't a problem they can just gloss over. As the representative of the dragons and the true Golden Dragon, she should take responsibility, apologize, and relinquish her position for the incident of a dragon breaking the peace treaty." After listening to all their chatter, she found herself dumbfounded. Feeling something was wrong with the situation, she asked why she was the one at fault. They turned their backs on her while Demiourgos told her that of course she was the one at fault, and then told her to let them out of the Golden Jade Realm or whatever. However, she suddenly told them to wait, asking them to at least listen to her request since they were already there. Demiourgos looked back at her and told her to apologize first. When he noticed her hesitation, he turned his back on her again and said if she didn't want to apologize, she could forget it because her apology meant nothing to him anyway. However, she suddenly told them to wait again and nervously said, "I'm sorry." Demiourgos then put his hand on her head and jokingly told her that he wasn't entirely satisfied, but since she insisted, he would accept her apology. This entire situation felt off to her, but she decided to let it slide since she is benevolent after all. After that, he asked her what her request was, to which she answered that she wanted them to hunt the dragons for her. With an indescribably ugly expression, Demiourgos asked if the god of the dragons, the mother, the true Golden Dragon, was asking a demon king like him to kill the dragons that were like children to her. When she said yes, he started laughing, asking her if she thought he was stupid. He knew this was a trap. Why would she want him to believe her nonsensical words? Now he planned to take her head off. However, she said she could explain herself, to which Alex said it must be because of that purple parasite. He explained that it was in the dragon's body, a weird parasite-like thing. It looked as if it was taking over the dragon's mind. She confirmed that Alex was right and continued by saying that there were problems with the dragons, specifically the ones against the peace treaty with humans. The extremist bastards. The dragon from yesterday became a sacrificial pawn to those hardliners. Losing a lover to humans or having their child hunted down for materials to make weapons. Those with such experiences gathered to form what is now called the extremists. Since they are required to be neutral, those guys, blinded by anger, use strong, unheard-of magic, tainting the ones who were living peacefully and making them attack the villages. They aimed to cause another war between the dragons and humans. That's why she pleaded with them to hunt those dragons before a war occurred so her innocent children wouldn't be used as tools of war, dying a dog's death. After all her explanation, Demiourgos said he understood she was asking him to hunt and also stop the dragons who were living peacefully from dying a meaningless death while being controlled by those troublesome extremists using that parasite. She confirmed that was about right, so he asked her what she would give him in return. He explained that if he gave, he should also receive something. Annoyed, she asked what he wanted, to which he answered, 5 dragon scales. He said that it's known the weaponry crafted with dragon materials is the best, so he wanted her to give him 5 scales for each dragon he hunted, something he believed was doable. Also, he wanted armor and weapons crafted using dragon breath, worth around 1,000 gold on the market. She paused for a moment, shocked, and said he was acting like a scammer. He then snapped his fingers and told her she could think whatever she wanted as he created the contract. The contract was about Demiourgos performing the job, and the dragon god would pay him for his effort. The job description was simple. Catch the dragons causing trouble in the human villages and castles and hand them over to the Golden Lord. The reward was 5 dragon scales per dragon, plus weapons worth 1,000 gold, to be paid by the morning following the task's completion. If this agreement was violated, the dragon god would become a slave to Demiourgos. The contract would take effect once she stated her name. He explained that it was a contract with a demon, so she shouldn't try anything funny as her soul was on the line. Understanding this, she cursed but had no choice but to state her name, which was True Golden Dragon Golden Lord. After that, the contract was accepted. Demiourgos grinned as the contract was now established. He then told her to open the door, promising to take care of the situation quickly. However, she called out to him again, stating that he must capture the dragons alive because they couldn't afford to let any more die. Demiourgos smirked and answered, "Of course, customer." Outside, they both sighed, agreeing that things were turning out better than expected. Suddenly, Demiourgos remembered something, turned swiftly, and ran back toward the cave. He called for the dragon god, but the cave had returned to normal and she was gone. Alex asked what was wrong, to which Demiourgos, with anger, cursed and said he had forgotten to get the true golden dragon's helmet. Alex told him it was too late to return to the Golden Jade Realm since they weren't dragons. Demiourgos cursed the dragon for being tricky and scamming them again, vowing one day to take her head. Back at the penthouse, someone shouted in confusion, "A weapons trader." With a cute face, Demiourgos answered, "Yeah." Alex asked him why and then burst into anger, demanding, "Why a weapons trader?" He asked if Demiourgos had left the demons behind just to come to the surface and sell a few weapons. Demiourgos shouted back, explaining that humans here hunt dragons to craft weapons. "Didn't Alex have any thoughts on that?" he said, adding that Alex had no business sense. With a confident expression, Demos elaborated on the monopoly of dragon scales and weapons provided by the true golden dragon, emphasizing how good that would be since his goal was to become part of the top 2% of the richest people. If he engaged in this business, he would receive weapons in bulk by catching some dragons. Wasn't that just easy money? He was confident that his plan was a business with no chance of failing since there was a war every 100 years. Alex then told him that there wouldn't be a war without a demon king, urging him to get a hold of himself. Demiourgos turned back and asked Alex if he still didn't know who he was. With a menacing expression, he said that being a weapons trader was just a means to make money for his real plan. He had no intention of living life as a trader. He asked Alex if he had forgotten that someone who operates in the shadows from the depths and someone who possesses all the weapons in the world. Alex acknowledged that he knew it. He knew Demiourgos hadn't forgotten about the underworld. Demiourgos told him to quickly take the failed product, the hero Zeke, and find a decent place to set up shop. Alex didn't waste any time. He took Zeke with him and dashed away. Now alone, Demiourgos mused why he would do something as bothersome as running a business. Of course, the ultimate goal was to become the greatest landlord in the fantasy world. He found it amusing that Alex was so gullible. He then lay down on the bed, relaxing while looking at the sky. He started recalling his adventures. Destroying the first city he visited, meeting Zeke, the moment Alex fought the dragon, and the day the dragon god gave him the quest to capture the dragons alive. Smirking, he thought to himself that he had taken care of the money issue and found a dumb hero. He guessed he was about ready now. He just needed to laze around and become rich. However, what is this empty feeling? Flesh and blood. Would he feel better if he killed all the humans in this village? Suddenly, a voice in his head tells him to kill them all, to destroy the world, to violate the women, and to enslave the men, turning the surface into hell. If he succeeded, he would no longer be stuck in the cycle of being reborn every 100 years in the sunless underworld. Demiourgos listened to the voice, then closed his eyes and told it to shut up so he could sleep. The sun was setting, and Alex had shown him this place, which was now the weapon shop they were opening. He explained that the previous owners had died during the dragon attack, so they got it at a steal. Demiourgos stretched and said it wasn't too bad, adding that Alex was so quick he didn't even give him time to sleep. Alex explained that he was so excited as soon as he heard the real plan that he couldn't stay calm. Demiourgos nervously replied, "Ahaha! Right, the real plan, let's do it." Alex said he thought it would turn out to be a pretty good store if they asked Zeke to fix it up. Demiourgos asked if Zeke could fix buildings as well, to which Alex answered that Zeke had said he had done carpentry work before. Demiourgos then acknowledged Zeke's skills at such a young age. He then changed the subject and they started talking about blood purity levels and whether they were inherited. To his knowledge, a child born from parents who are close to pure blood could still be an F-class. Alex agreed and told him that, on the other hand, there have been many examples of children born from F-class parents and a priestess becoming the strongest. Demiourgos then said, "So it's just random?" To which Alex answered, "Yes, but then doesn't that mean Zeke, considered a failed product, also has hope?" Demiourgos said they shouldn't just label him as an F-class just because he's from an F-class family. Alex answered that it was a bit complicated. He explained that talent may not be inherited, but wealth is. Families who frequently produce advanced heroes or priestesses can build up wealth equivalent to that of a king. Using such wealth, they can employ various means to increase their children's blood purity level and class. Alex was saying that once you become an F-class family, it'll be hard to improve your standing, even when they produce an heir with great talent. Also, considering how Zeke has stated that he is an F-class, he must have already been graded. Demiourgos asks Alex if he knows what he is thinking right now, to which Alex replies, "No," with an angry expression. Demiourgos demands, "What's the deal with the demon race always losing to these pitiful humans who argue with money?" He was practically stalking Alex while questioning him, and Alex simply apologized. Demiourgos wonders why he should bother, thinking that the demon world doesn't matter anymore. He brushes it off and asks where Zeke might have gone. Moments later, Alex leads him to where Zeke is. They find him selling food at a little cavern he calls Hero Noodles. When Zeke sees them, he happily greets Demiourgos and asks if he slept well. Demiourgos inquires about what Zeke is doing and why he is selling noodles. Zeke explains that he had some time during the night, so he decided to try out this business. Despite appearances, it brings in decent money. Demiourgos sits down and asks for a bowl, which Zeke readily prepares. He adds hot water to the noodles, chops up some vegetables, and finishes the dish, which looks delicious. Demiourgos, having never tried noodles before, is amazed by the taste. He uses chopsticks to eat, slurps the noodles, chews, swallows, and compliments Zeke, saying it's very tasty. Alex decides to taste the noodles too. Using his slurping skills, he inhales the noodles and also finds them delicious. Demiourgos finds them so tasty that he tells Zeke to give up being a hero and sell noodles instead. Zeke smiles and takes it as a compliment, sincerely thanking Demiourgos. He explains that thanks to Demiourgos taking him in, he could buy school uniforms for his younger siblings who are attending hero school. He always felt bad that they were the only ones without uniforms, although his siblings never complained. Zeke says they should have seen their faces when he got them the uniforms. Still slurping, Demiourgos asks what the hero school is. Zeke explains that he might be taking on more than he can handle, but he is currently sending his siblings to a private hero elementary school. It may be too late for him, but he wants to raise them as a hero and a priestess. Suddenly, someone disrupts the good mood by complaining about finding a fly in their bowl. As their attention shifted to the voice, they saw a couple with the man cursing and saying he had only decided to eat at such a trashy-looking place because he was so hungry. He complained about the result while his wife chimed in, stating that she had said she didn't want to eat in a place like this. Zeke apologized, pointing out that there weren't even any flies there. However, the man, still angry, tossed the hot food at Zeke. Unfortunately, some of it stained Demiourgos' clothes. The man continued shouting, asking if Zeke was implying he was lying. He called Zeke a bastard and asked if he wanted to know who his father was, boasting that he could have the shop closed with just one word. Suddenly, the man recognized Zeke as a member of the Holy Bitch family, known for their failures. The wife joined in, saying she had heard about that too and asked why the Holy Bitch family was still around. The man burst into laughter, and the other customers began to recognize the family, wondering if the chef was a hero. Zeke corrected them, saying it was Holy Bitch, not Holy Bitch. The man continued mocking, saying that Zeke's father used to come begging for work, and now his child was selling trash at a stall. Like father, like son, he said with a mocking tone. Demiourgos had enough of this. He looked at the man and asked why this annoying fly was constantly buzzing around. The man, confident as ever, asked if Demiourgos was talking to him and if he wanted to die. However, Demiourgos simply lifted his hand toward the man. Confused, the man watched as Demiourgos menacingly said, "It's a fly," and closed his fist. The man started folding like an omelet. The woman, terrified, screamed and ran away, asking to be saved, but Demiourgos wasn't going to let her escape. A purple hole appeared on his palm, and both the man and woman were sucked into it until nothing was left. Afterward, Demiourgos menacingly said that those who show no gratitude to the hero who saved them have no right to enjoy the surface. Everyone present was stunned, their jaws wide open, while Demiourgos continued eating like nothing had happened. Suddenly, a paper fell from the sky, landing in his bowl. It was a message from the Golden Lord, informing him that a dragon had been sighted at Leia Castle and that he should depart immediately. After reading it, he put down his chopsticks and happily told Zeke to close the shop because they should complete the first request from their VIP customer. A good opportunity to earn some money. It was night, and our hero's carriage was zooming down the road. Alex looked at Zeke and saw him trembling, so he asked if he was nervous. Zeke replied that he guessed he was. He never expected someone like himself to be going against orcs and goblins, let alone a dragon. He would have never dreamed of it before meeting Alex and Demiourgos. Looking back, Zeke said to Demiourgos that he didn't know if Alex would believe him, but whenever he looked at Demiourgos, he felt a surge of confidence, as if it was just a dragon, no big deal. But he was sure he would be scared stiff when he faced one. Alex told him that was a good mindset to have. Regardless of his thoughts, Demiourgos had already designated him a hero, even if it didn't feel like it most of the time. He was their leader on this adventure, so he should be confident. Zeke nervously answered, "Yes," but Alex told him he didn't sound much like a leader. Zeke then answered again with a confident, "Yes." As they sped down the road, Alex said they were approaching Leia Castle. As they rounded the corner, he asked them to hang on tight as the speed of the horse increased. They could see the castle in the corner of their eyes, filled with snow and ice, with a gigantic dragon conquering it. The dragon was being controlled by the purple parasite. Zeke then said the castle had already been overrun and wondered where the people were. Demiourgos told him to calm down because the people were all gathered over there. Alex said there should be several G-class heroes in a castle that size, so they likely managed to escape. The stage was set, and it seemed the audience had gathered. It was showtime, so Demiourgos told Zeke to get ready. Meanwhile, near the castle, in the cold environment, people were coughing and cursing. Some asked where the dragon had come from and if this was the end of the world. Others asked for blankets for the wounded, while some felt like they would freeze to death. One guy said they should stay close to each other and not spread out, and others prayed to God to save them, though some were annoyed by the prayers. However, the man continued praying, pleading for God to stop the freezing snowstorm, asking if God had forsaken them. Others joined in, saying they didn't know about any gods, but it looked like the king had left them to die on their own. Meanwhile, magic was being used nearby as many mages cast spells to keep the king from freezing. However, the grateful Pig King complained that it was too hot and felt like a seer. He asked where the heroes who had gone to seek help from the Sanctus Maximus kingdom were. A mage told him that it was highly likely they had all fallen to the dragon because he was unable to contact them. Angrily, the Pig King ordered the mage to do something about it, fearing he might die from the heat. Suddenly, our heroes crashed through the hot barrier where the king was. They flew right over the pig, shouting, "The hero has arrived!" as they passed overhead. The Pig King looked up in shock and disbelief, remarking that it was just a pervert in panties carrying a broomstick. The Pig King screamed at his mages and guards to catch them and to hurry up and cast the cooling magic again because it was cold. His anger was indescribable as he asked how they dared jump over his head, hoping they would get eaten by the dragon. Meanwhile, the civilians were very cold, doing their best to warm up their children. When they saw the carriage, they were shocked and asked if that man was charging at the dragon in just his panties. As they looked closer, they were even more shocked and confused to see that this half-naked person with a broomstick was a hero. Zeke finally sat down, feeling embarrassed for being half-naked in front of so many people, but also very cold. As they rode along the new iced road, they noticed many frozen people, ice statues of those who couldn't escape and froze to death. Zeke looked up and saw the dragon, which appeared gigantic and seemed to grow larger as they approached. Demiourgos then told Alex and Zeke to get ready, explaining that the plan was the same as before. Zeke would stand out where everyone could see him, and Alex would grab the dragon and drop it in front of Zeke. Then Zeke would swing his stick and finish it. He reminded Alex not to mess around like last time and not to make him do the work. Alex reassured him, saying that he might have struggled a bit before due to not noticing their state, but he wouldn't make the same mistake again. Demiourgos then instructed him to make sure not to kill the dragon but to capture it alive, to which Alex replied that he would only half kill it. Alex called out to Zeke and said that considering the dragon's size, things might get a bit chaotic. He advised Zeke to stand his ground and stay put, then entered the portal, leaving Zeke puzzled and asking what he meant by a bit chaotic and stand his ground. Demiourgos then told Zeke to stop the carriage, saying that he would take a nap there and that Zeke should handle it. As Zeke looked at the gigantic dragon towering over them, he asked Demiourgos if he could come with him because he felt like he was going to wet himself, inwardly admitting that he knew he'd be scared out of his mind seeing this dragon up close. Meanwhile, the parasite had complete control of the dragon. Suddenly, its attention shifted upwards as it spotted Alex emerging from the portal and floating in the air. As Alex began falling toward the dragon, the parasite extended itself, trying to grab him. However, with skill and swiftness, Alex dodged the attacks hurled at him, skillfully evading them while getting closer to his target. Resolute and ready, Alex acrobatically approached the dragon, and as he neared its head, he delivered a powerful punch that sent the dragon crashing down with force. Nearby, Zeke watched in shock and admiration, inwardly exclaiming, "That was awesome!" Zeke couldn't see anything through the smoke and needed to find a spot where Alex could locate him easily. Suddenly, Demiourgos handed him a shield. Demiourgos asked if Zeke was going to take the shield he brought along. saying that a hero should at least have a shield, especially since it was a memento of his father. To help out, Demiourgos cast a spell on the shield. Zeke wondered what it was, and Demiourgos explained that it was a defensive barrier that should withstand a dragon's breath, just in case he needed it. Overjoyed, Zeke thanked him, but when he opened his eyes, he saw that Demiourgos had fallen asleep. Zeke got out of the carriage and inwardly vowed to do well this time. He needed to hurry to a good spot so that Alex wouldn't have to wait. He needed somewhere easily visible, high up, and in the center. Luckily, he found the spot and started running towards it as fast as he could, but suddenly he fell and began sliding. Meanwhile, the dragon roared in pain as Alex stepped on it and began ripping the parasite out of the dragon. However, the parasite started controlling the dragon once more, and the dragon launched a powerful ice breath at Alex. The dragon then got up and flew rapidly into the air. Smoke was everywhere, but suddenly a purple hand passed through it, grabbing the dragon's teeth. The hand came from Alex, who used the momentum to get up and land on top of the dragon's face. Looking completely different, Alex activated his menacing and deadly arms and, with great power, punched the dragon relentlessly until it crashed into a mountain. After a while, the dragon lay on the floor as Alex stood over it, saying that it was quite resilient and wondering if it was due to its size. As he got closer, he declared it was time to end it and delivered a devastating punch, causing a huge explosion on the mountain once more. Zeke, observing the battle nearby in amazement, thought, "Just being here is frightening, but Alex is handling the dragon all by himself." He wondered if Alex was a dragon hunter. Suddenly, he heard the voices of the survivors growing louder. They were saying that the hero had come to save them and speculating if he was winning. At that moment, some were trying to make sense of a pervert being a hero, while others were just happy that they were going to be saved. One man who had been praying exclaimed that God had answered their prayers. The crowd started cheering for the hero to do his best, while the Pig King sweated nervously, realizing he had made a mistake by insulting the hero. Zeke, thinking everyone was cheering for him, was moved by their cheers. However, instead of taking the credit, he admitted that Alex was the true hero. Zeke, feeling envious, also wanted to be a hero like Alex, saving people and giving them hope. "Please save me," Zeke suddenly heard. He looked towards the voice and saw a woman almost completely frozen, asking him to save her. But just then, the dragon swept its tail, sending Alex flying. Alex managed to catch himself and sighed in frustration as he watched the dragon getting back on its feet and roaring as loudly as it could, shaking the entire castle. It started speaking in an incomprehensible language, and Alex realized that it could regenerate independently as long as the host didn't die. He looked at it with disgust and muttered, "It's pretty much a zombie dragon at this point." Alex knew that if he couldn't kill the dragon, there was only one option left. He had to cut off all its limbs. The dragon readied itself and, with immense speed, launched itself toward Alex, who prepared to use his 100 hands skill. Purple tendrils emerged from his back, combining to form a single giant hand that clenched into a fist. The hand landed a powerful punch on the dragon, sending it crashing to the ground and shattering the earth. But Alex wasn't finished. The giant hand split into 100, relentlessly attacking the dragon before merging back into one. Alex used the giant hand to grab the dragon by the neck and lift it off the ground. As the dragon prepared to use its cold breath again, Alex wrapped himself in the purple substance. The dragon's freezing breath landed directly on Alex, causing an explosion that sent debris flying and knocked Zeke back, leaving him cold but determined. Alex, having blocked the attack without damage, gave a sharp gaze, ready to end it. Still holding the dragon's neck with the giant hand, he increased his grip and used his 100 demonic hands to split the giant hand into 3. With 2 new hands, he grabbed each of the dragon's wings and, with unbelievable strength, ripped them off, making the dragon's scream echo through the kingdom. Alex then proceeded to slam the dragon to the ground with such force that it shattered the earth again. He wasn't done, though, as he relentlessly pummeled the dragon with a rain of punches. The survivors watched the battle in awe, and so did Zeke. However, Zeke quickly refocused, knowing he needed to save the people. As he approached, he heard someone cry for help. He reassured her, promising to get her out immediately. However, the moment he touched the ice, he realized how cold it was. Upon closer inspection, he noticed a man frozen to death while trying to save the girl. Suddenly, the girl, on the brink of freezing to death, begged Zeke to at least save the baby. Taking his broomstick, Zeke began hitting the ice, trying to break it to free the baby. He told them to hold on a little longer because he would get them out soon. However, he inwardly cursed that he had to incapacitate the father to save the mother and child. Alex would be here soon, so he needed to quickly save them and get back in place. Suddenly, a bright light appeared from the dragon. The civilians seemed to recognize this light. One man shouted for the hero to get out of the way because that light was the very thing that destroyed their castle and turned the entire place into ice. The light grew brighter, and then a burst of pure coldness started spreading from the dragon, expanding through the surroundings. Zeke used the reinforced shield from Demiourgos, but he was still sent flying, and the shield shattered into pieces. The cold spread far, reaching the civilians who were miles away from the battle. It even affected the pig, breaking the mage's spell that kept it warm. The dragon, back on its feet, stood menacingly and started screaming. However, Alex stood there unfazed, saying that, just like last time, it was becoming difficult for him to maintain the condition of his skin, which he had been preserving for the war 20 years from now. He found this to be annoying. Meanwhile, Zeke lay on the floor, snow covering him. He opened his eyes and inwardly wondered if he was still alive, thinking it might be because of the magic on the upgraded shield that Demiourgos had given him. The environment was freezing, but he suddenly remembered the baby. Luckily, he heard it crying nearby and was relieved it was still alive. However, its mother, who had been alive earlier, was now dead. Zeke noticed this and was about to help the child when he suddenly felt something. He looked at himself and, to his shock, saw that he had lost one arm and both of his legs. They had shattered after freezing. Meanwhile, the dragon began to use the light attack again, and the civilians realized this too. One man shouted at the hero, telling him to run quickly. Zeke, on the other hand, wanted to save the baby. He wanted to be a hero. Though he might be a failed product and unable to save everyone like the other heroes, he would do his best to save this baby. Alex asked the dragon if it hadn't realized that its attack wouldn't work on him. That was why they always ended up being used by humans. The dragon then used another freezing attack like earlier, which started expanding throughout the entire kingdom. Zeke tried his best to grab the baby and managed to survive. Suddenly, Demiourgos dropped his jacket on top of Zeke. As Zeke looked up, he saw Demiourgos, who said that he really couldn't understand. He wondered how humans could think of beating him when they were as weak as this. They were like candles he could blow out, yet they sacrificed themselves to save others. Did the demons lose to such individuals for the past 66,500 years? He just couldn't comprehend it. Zeke then apologized to Demiourgos for not being in place on time. He said that he would do his best next time and then fell back into the snow, unconscious. Zeke opened his eyes, then closed them again before suddenly getting up and asking about the dragon and what had happened to it. He paused, looked around, and realized he was in Demiourgos' room. Scratching his head, he wondered why he was there and if he had passed out. Something seemed strange. How was he able to scratch his head if he had lost his hand? Shocked to see it back, he swiftly removed the blanket to check his legs and found them intact. He thought his body had been in pretty bad shape, so how was this possible? Suddenly, he heard Demiourgos saying, "This stuff isn't half bad." Zeke looked outside and saw Demiourgos and Alex standing in front of a pile of beautiful weapons. Demiourgos greeted him, and Zeke asked how his body had been fixed, inquiring about the dragon and the child. He had so many questions. Demiourgos smiled and told him that both the dragon and the child were taken care of, so he shouldn't worry about it. He then told Zeke that if he had rested enough, he should come down and help clean up because they needed to open their weapon shop. Zeke inwardly noted that just seeing Demiourgos' face made all his worries vanish. The next day, their carriage arrived at another kingdom where a dragon controlled by a parasite was destroying the place. Demiourgos told Zeke to attack, and Zeke instructed Alex to do his thing because he was ready. Alex, positioned in the air the dragon, leaped down for a powerful punch. From then on, they continued fulfilling requests from the Golden Law. Whenever they took down a dragon, it would somehow be taken away. The next day, Demiourgos woke up to find many weapons and shields falling from the sky, landing right in front of their doorstep. After every completed request, there would be a pile of weapons delivered to their place the next morning. They continued their adventures fighting all kinds of dragons. Demiourgos slept on the carriage while Alex took care of the dragon, and Zeke finished it off. They went from one battle to another in different settings. In one instance, they used flashbangs to locate a bat dragon in a cave. After completing the mission, they received new weapons the next day. Their battles weren't confined to the land. At one point, they found themselves in the air, flying on top of dragons. After defeating them, they received their rewards the next day. Every evening, they settled at the Hero Noodles shop, which was always bustling with customers. Our heroes indulged in the delicious food, and Zeke in particular looked happy. While eating, something fell into his bowl. It was a message from the Golden Law about another dragon appearing at Shunnerir Castle. That was their signal to go. They found themselves in the sky once more, fighting a cold-looking skeleton dragon that was currently flaming the kingdom. Demiourgos slept while Zeke was ready and determined. Demiourgos then opened his eyes and told Zeke to attack. Zeke jumped off the carriage straight towards the dragon. From the sky to underwater dragons to jumping toward gigantic flame-breathing dragons, Zeke always managed to emerge victorious after using his skill called Demon King Splitter. That skill finished off the green dragon, the sky dragon, and the underwater dragon every time. The day after each battle, they received many weapons and shields. After finishing off a dragon, Zeke would be covered in its blood. The citizens would thank him, cheer for him, and call him the dragon hunter who saved their castle. He looked cool in their eyes. As always, Demiourgos complimented his well-done job. Zeke's party soon became the most famous team in the land. After many days of hard work, they finally opened their first branch of the Devil's Weapon Shop, and the store was open for business. Inside the shop, everything looked breathtaking. The weapons were beautiful, and the place was spotless. Zeke remarked that the shop was amazing. Demiourgos admitted that he didn't expect it to look so impressive inside, suggesting that Alex must have put in a lot of effort. Alex responded that there shouldn't be any weapon stores around, even in castle cities, that could compare. Upon hearing this, Demiourgos shocked them by stating that it didn't matter since they would be the ones taking care of the business, not him. They were taken aback as Demiourgos asked if they had ever seen owners work before. Alex pointed out that his words were quite problematic. Suddenly, Demiourgos grabbed them both by the neck and told them that he just wanted to be wealthy, not run stores. He added that if they had an issue with that, they could say they were eager to run the store themselves. He then asked if that was acceptable, to which they replied that they understood. After letting go of their necks, Demiourgos said that since the topic was resolved, they should work hard to make the store great, to which Zeke and Alex responded, "Yes, boss." Suddenly, Zeke called out to Demiourgos and asked if he could continue running his stall after finishing his work here, as he still needed to earn tuition for his younger siblings. Demiourgos told him he could do as he wished, to which Zeke thanked him. Demiourgos called Alex and told him to bring what he had requested. Later that day, Zeke looked in awe, his gaze fixed on a shield covered in eyes. He remarked that it looked amazing. Demiourgos picked up the shield and, noticing something written on it, asked Alex to read it. Alex read aloud, "Doom's Lagoon, crafted from scales obtained by hunting dragons and combining blue dark stone and chaotic scales. It has been specially crafted by the underworld's top blacksmith, Hermes. This season's limited time shield." He explained that it could withstand 3 to 4 attacks from the Demon King. Even Demiourgos was impressed, and Zeke marveled at the shield's ability to withstand the Demon King's attacks. The underworld Alex mentioned referred to the demon world, but Zeke mistakenly thought it meant the dwarves. Demiourgos then told Zeke to hold the shield, confusing him. Suddenly, a bright light enveloped Zeke, and he found himself in an unknown, pitch-black place. Panicking, he called out for Demiourgos. Zeke suddenly heard a mysterious voice asking if he was the one who called. As he turned around, he faced a gigantic red reptilian eye. It introduced itself as Doom's Lagoon and said it would take Zeke as its master and protect him until the last flames of its life. Confused, Zeke was blinded by a bright red light, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself back at the shop with everyone else. Still confused, Zeke asked where Doom's Lagoon had gone. Instead of an answer, he was suddenly attacked by Deus. Fortunately, Zeke had the shield in front of him, which absorbed Deus's attack but sent Zeke flying out of the shop, destroying the wall in the process. What kind of owner tears down a store as soon as it's built? Alex asked angrily. Deus simply responded, "It was just a test." As Zeke emerged from the debris, he smiled and told Deus, "This shield is amazing. It's so good that even an A rank." He paused, then corrected himself. No, even a G-rank hero would want it. Deus was also impressed by the shield for blocking 1% of his Doom Spear attack. He then called Zeke, who responded, "Yes." Deus told him, "The shield is yours now." He continued, "You should use overpowered gear since you are weak. We'll start adding more one by one, beginning with this shield." Hearing this, Zeke started crying and asked if he was giving him such an amazing shield, even though he was just an F rank. He wondered if it was okay. Deus looked at him and answered, "Yeah." Zeke cried even more, unable to believe that he was holding such an amazing shield in his lifetime. "This is the greatest shield in the world," he said. Deus looked at him and called him a dummy, asking why he was crying when he wasn't even hurt. Meanwhile, elsewhere, laughter could be heard, and pigs were seen drinking and eating. This was the kingdom of Verde Arcoma Castle, the castle that Demos destroyed in the first chapter. The man sitting on the throne looked at his jewelry and said, "It was heavy. To think the kingdom was holding on to this much value." He wondered why the king didn't wear it since he couldn't take it with you to death. He then looked at the princess and asked if he wasn't right, bursting into laughter along with the other pigs nearby. Suddenly, their attention shifted towards the entrance as a hooded person entered the room. He quickly moved up the stairs, looking around as if searching for something. He walked to every corner, looking up and down, while the other people present watched him in silence. Their glances grew deeper as they watched him pass right in front of them without a care in the world. Suddenly, the hooded man bowed as if looking for something on the floor. He said that from the castle gates to here, there isn't even a trace of a fight. The one sitting on the throne asked him who he was. The hooded man smiled and said, "It was nothing. Don't worry and continue as you were." The man then leaped into the air, replicating someone's movements, and landed in front of the pig and the princess. He looked at the cracked floor and realized that it had happened with just one explosion. He got up and turned to see the mountains that were destroyed, assuming it was done with just one strike. As he stood there, he wondered if it was even possible for a person to do such a thing. Nervously and suspiciously, the pig called his horde of pigs to get the man out of there. They got up to do the deed, but the green boy told them not to move because it was dangerous. He said that although they were just some cockroaches that had taken over this place, their lives were still precious, right? The pigs didn't take his words seriously and dashed towards the man, ready to kill him. The green boy, unperturbed, told them that as fellow creations of God, they should not do this. With a gesture of his fingers, all the pigs that rushed at him started losing their limbs. Most of them lost a leg. After the massacre, he told everyone else to stop moving unless they wanted to end up like those pigs. The pig leader was shocked to see magic and asked what was going on and who this man was. The man explained that the people above were worried about the happenings here and that something bad had happened, so he was sent to investigate and hoped the pig would cooperate. The pig was confused about what he meant by above. The green boy pointed up and answered, "Representative of God, the Sanctus Maximus Populi." The pig was shocked and shouted, asking if the green boy was talking about the holiest of all, the Sanctus Populi. The green boy then said that he guessed there was no need to explain further since they knew. He then asked the pig to explain what happened in this place that day, who, what, and why. Tearing down Aroma Castle in an instant, known to be one of the best, and disappearing without a trace just doesn't make sense. The pig said he didn't know either. He explained that he only heard the traders in town refer to him as White Hair. He continued, saying they saw an unknown white-haired person enter the castle gate that morning. Shortly after, they heard screams, and then the castle exploded. He didn't know any more than this, and only God knows since everyone in the castle died. The green boy smirked, turned around, thanked him for his answers, and told him goodbye. However, the pig suddenly said that the person who did this to the kingdom was a savior. He said the green boy wouldn't understand. The tyranny of Verde's king was beyond belief. He claimed that Arcoma Castle, supposedly the world's greatest, was built upon the blood and bone of the citizens. The white-haired person was a savior sent by God to take down that evil king and return the castle to its rightful owners. He continued shouting that the person was a true messiah, far superior to individuals like Sanctus Maximus, who exploit God to live luxuriously. The green boy turned around, looked at him with a serious expression, and said, "It was a good speech." He then said they would be the ones to decide if the person who destroyed the castle was sent by God or was part of a new force aligned with evil. Suddenly, with a gesture of his hand, he decapitated the man, asking him how he dared to speak about the Sanctus Maximus in such a manner. Meanwhile, Deus and Alex stopped another dragon, also controlled by the parasite. Afterward, they walked away, and Deus said that at first he was happy because they had so much work. But if it was this much, wouldn't it be a pretty serious problem for the dragons? He continued, saying that if it's gotten to this point, shouldn't Golden Law herself take a stance and clean this up since she claims to be the god of dragons? Alex then suggested that the reason she couldn't take care of things herself might be because she's in this world through the body of a human. Deus was confused, so he asked what Alex meant. Alex explained that he wasn't entirely sure, but he believed it had something to do with the records kept in the Dimensional Library. Deus asked what he meant by the Dimensional Library, to which Alex explained that it serves as the most crucial piece of evidence officially recognized during the trial of gods. As the memories present statements that can easily be manipulated by hallucination magic, the Dimensional Library, which can't be changed once written, is the only official form of evidence accepted. Deus then said that the reason Golden Law doesn't want to take action is due to her fear of leaving behind a record in the Dimensional Library. So, in other words, her being here is a secret that shouldn't be known to the public. To which Alex answered, "Yes, that's most likely." Deus asked why, and Alex answered that he didn't know because how could a lowly person like himself fathom the complicated personal matters of the dragon god? Deus then brushed it off, and they headed toward their carriage where Zeke was asleep. Alex noted that Zeke must be pretty worn out. While he might not act like it, he did face a dragon that even an A-class or even G-class would have a hard time with head-on. It might have only been possible because it was Zeke since he is used to holding on and withstanding any trial that comes his way. Deus found this interesting but wondered why Zeke was carrying the shield wrapped up like that. Alex answered by saying that Zeke had said he should take care of the shield because it was important to him and that he wanted to pass it down to his younger siblings when he became a hero. Deus was a bit frustrated, so he told Alex to tell Zeke to use it without care and that he would just get one for his younger siblings. Since they were done here, Deus said they should get going. He told Alex to put Zeke in the carriage so he wouldn't wake up. Alex agreed, and they started moving through a breathtaking landscape. Suddenly, Deus remarked, "It's staying attached pretty well." Alex, confused, asked, "What do you mean, Zeke's arms and legs?" Deus replied he thought the underworld doctors would do a half-assed job, but they did quite well to reattach his hands and legs. Deus was sure the underworld doctors had plenty of practice with human bodies. Then Deus asked Alex if he didn't think Zeke would have been a remarkable hero if he were of D-class. He added that Zeke had a good sense of responsibility and would have done well. Alex suddenly laughed and told Deus not to jinx it with such foreboding talk. He joked that 20 years down the line, Deus and Zeke would be swinging their swords at each other. Deus asked, "Why would I do that?" Alex shouted, "Because you are destined to be the Demon King." Acting cute, Deus asked, "What are you saying?" At a glance, anyone would peg me as the noble companion to a hero, not a demon king. Deus then said, if it turns out how you say, wouldn't it mean that Zeke would be the final hero? Alex explained that it wasn't possible as Zeke was not of Generation Zero. The Generation Zero hero is the final hero born of the 5th generation, according to this world's rules. He explained that humans typically have children in their 20s, and each generation follows the same pattern. The age at which the 5th generation's child turns 20 is exactly 100 years, the year the Demon King is supposed to descend. The generation that will truly go to war with them and start the next cycle is Generation Zero. Of Generation Zero, only one is born as the final hero, so a 4th generation like Zeke can't become the final hero unless it's Zeke's offspring. After hearing all of that, Deus giggled and said, every 100 years when the Demon King invades, the final hero is born. Huh? That's the law of the world. He finds it to be a really bad joke. Suddenly, Alex becomes serious and asks, why did you forsake us and quit being the Demon King? Deus asks, didn't I tell you why? Of course not, Alex replies. Deus is confused about why he didn't explain before. Alex then prompts him to explain it now. It's nothing special, Deus says. The reason I quit being the Demon King is... His words are suddenly cut off as they look up at the sky, which is full of fire. A flying ship is burning, and it looks like the people aboard must be royalty. The reason it's burning is that it's being attacked by a dragon. Deus is taken aback to see another dragon. He wonders if dragons are that easy to find in this world. Suddenly, Alex appears shocked as he notices the emblem on the ship and recognizes it as belonging to the Holy Fir Tree family, a family of purebloods. He explains that the family has produced nearly 100 final heroes, the purest of the pure-blooded families. He can't understand why the two powers that were always side by side in the 100 years of wars are now fighting. He just can't comprehend what's happening these days. As the ship crashes on a nearby mountain, Deus calls Alex and, while smiling, tells him, let's go watch the show. The flying ship was now completely destroyed. However, it seemed that the item they were transporting remained intact, and they carefully moved it away to prevent it from catching fire. The soldiers lifting it cursed, wondering why it was so heavy, but with collective effort, they persisted. Suddenly, the rope snapped, and they all stopped. A portly man berated them, calling them dumbass and reminding them to be careful so the item wouldn't break. As he watched the knights move the cargo, he inwardly wondered if they knew how much it cost. He warned them that if there was even a scratch on it, their heads would roll. His attention was suddenly diverted by a roar. Upon closer inspection, he realized they were in serious trouble. The dragon was heading straight for them. The portly man ordered everyone to stop the dragon, which was after their item. He instructed the archers and magicians to prepare to fire. Following his orders, the archers and mages readied their attacks. As the dragon approached, the portly man, now wearing a scared expression, told them to fire. The archers released their arrows, and the ice and light mages launched their attacks. Despite their combined effort, the dragon managed to dodge the attack and prepared to unleash its fiery breath. The dragon's attack hit the ground, sending knights flying and setting the entire area ablaze. The portly man, who was within the attack range, fell face first. As he got up, he cursed at the dragon and asked if the item was safe. The knights confirmed that it was. He sighed in relief but then looked up to see the dragon coming again. Shouting, he reminded them that the dragon was just a baby and urged them to hit it this time. He ordered everyone to aim, and as the dragon got close, he declared that this would be their last attack. As he was about to give the order to fire, someone appeared behind him and told him to move aside. Fatty was confused, but the man suddenly used Fatty's head to launch himself into the air. As Fatty looked up, he recognized this orange-haired man. While airborne, the man used his skill, trimming camellia branches, and with a single slash, cut the dragon in half. As the dragon fell to the ground dead, the man named Varias landed and said that the dragon was asking for death because it would have kept its life if it had left after the first attack. Handing his weapon to Fatty to clean, Varias listened as Fatty, overjoyed, told him they could have handled it themselves. Fatty then added that even if it was just a baby, splitting a dragon in half was incredible. Various replied, "If it's a dragon, then it's a dragon. Why add, even if it was just a baby?" He then instructed Fatty to hurry up, wipe his sword, clean the area, and call for support. Menacingly, he warned that if the item got exposed for any reason, his father would have their heads. Nervously, Fatty assured him he could rest easy. Suddenly, they heard an unfamiliar voice say, "Is this the item you're talking about?" The voice came from Deus, who was with Alex, standing on top of the item. The knights looked at them in shock and confusion. Fatty asked who they were, but they didn't answer. Instead, Deus used his leg to reveal that the item was another dragon. Upon closer inspection, Deus noticed that its eyes were normal, indicating it wasn't infected by the parasite. Deus now understood why the baby dragon was going after it, to save its mother. Alex believed the same. Menacingly, Deus asked if they weren't in a ceasefire with the dragons and pointed out that since these people were part of the hero family, this smacked of conspiracy. Various looked at them and said it seemed there were a few more corpses to take care of. Alex then asked Deus if he was provoking them, to which Deus responded by asking if Alex wasn't curious about the skills of a pureblood. Various looked down on them and told Fatty to take care of them, which Fatty accepted. He then said that he didn't know who they were, but they should blame their eyes for seeing what shouldn't be seen. Various then ordered the knights to take them down. However, Deus was disappointed that the strongest one there was leaving. He had been expectant, as he was a pureblood, and now found the situation boring, so he told Alex to kill them all. Alex reasoned with him, asking if they weren't supposed to be playing the role of the hero's companion. Deus asked what that had to do with anything. Alex explained that it wouldn't be good to fight against a pureblood family as the hero's companion. Deus then remarked that now that Alex mentioned it, that guy was a holy just like Zeke. Alex agreed and said that hero families all have names that start with holy, followed by a three-part name to show they are blessed. Deus asked if the first here was a tree or something, wondering why they all used the names of trees. Alex explained that they used the names of the trees that grew the most in their territory. While they were chatting, Fatty noticed that these bastards were looking down on them. He asked his knights what they were doing and told them to hurry up and kill them. The mages launched their ice and lightning magic, and the archers also attacked. However, their combined assault had no effect as Deus and Alex appeared behind them, unperturbed. Since they were attacked, Deus said they should quickly take care of them because they might wake Zeke up. The people and Fatty were shocked, wondering when Deus and Alex had gotten there. Meanwhile, Alex and Deus kept talking. Alex said it wasn't hard to kill a few of them but asked if it would be okay. Deus asked why Alex kept questioning him. Alex replied that Deus had mentioned being a companion of a hero. Annoyed, Deus told him to go beg them for forgiveness to let them off. However, Alex pointed at the dragon and said it might be too late to beg for forgiveness since they had already seen their secret. He then asked what Alex wanted him to do, to which Alex suggested they just run away. He asked if Alex was afraid of them, but Alex denied it. Meanwhile, Fatty was fuming with anger because these bastards were messing around, so he commanded his subordinates to kill them. Immediately after hearing the orders, the knights responded with a resolution, "Yes," and positioned themselves to attack. Alex sighed, saying that he hadn't wanted to mess with the hero family, but now it seemed unavoidable. Meanwhile, in a place not too far from where Deus and Alex were, Zeke was still sleeping peacefully in the carriage, snoozing like a baby. The knights rushed toward Alex and Deus, and then a mage leaped into the air, preparing to use his fire hand skill. However, Alex opened his mouth wide, emitting a bright light that, upon contact, sent the mage back. Another knight was about to attack Deus, but Alex decapitated him with a single slash the moment he saw him. The other knights stood in terror as Alex dashed through them in the blink of an eye, leaving heads and limbs flying and armor and weapons shattered into pieces. Alex had swiftly and gracefully slain them all. After his massacre, Alex stood menacingly, but a foolish archer thought he had a chance. The archer attacked Alex with his magnum shot, a fire arrow aimed directly at him. However, with a flick of his finger, Alex destroyed the arrow and killed the archer simultaneously. Another mage attacked him with a lightning bolt, but Alex opened a portal to redirect the lightning back to the mage, killing him. The mage fell to the ground, dead from his attack. Alex stood there menacingly while Deus yawned. Alex then remarked that killing humans still gave him the best rush. Fatty was flabbergasted and quite nervous, wondering who these people were. Suddenly, Varias used his head to launch himself into the air while also drawing his sword. He prepared to use the same attack he used against the dragon, shaking camellia branches against Alex and Deus. The attack was so powerful that it destroyed the spot where they had been standing. As Varias landed gracefully and waited for the smoke to clear, he heard a voice telling him to take it easy because he was making a mess. He turned around to see Alex and Deus standing atop a hill behind him, unharmed. Curious, he asked them who they were, as killing his family's soldiers and avoiding his sword was quite impressive. He asked if they were the blood of other families. Deus corrected him, saying that not everyone strong was blood, and told him to use his head a bit more. Varias then asked if they could be dragons but brushed it off, saying that it didn't matter because he just had to take care of the witnesses. However, Deus grinned and said, "You? Take care of me?" He continued, "That's not even close to possible." Then he called him a dumbass. But suddenly, something strange occurred. The moment he saw the smile on Deus' face, something inside him awoke, something deep inside his body. A light emanated from him, and he suddenly started screaming, shocking Alex. He didn't stop there. His scream grew louder and louder, even shocking and confusing his companions. He even transformed. Deus was entertained by the show Varias was giving. Then, in a flash, Varias dashed and appeared right in front of Deus. Varias looked like a beast, and even Deus noticed that he seemed to have changed a bit. Varias was determined, his anger indescribable, as he launched multiple slashes towards them. However, Deus managed to dodge them. As Deus landed on another hill, he called Varias a dumbass and told him he was still too slow. He said he should try moving a bit faster because he felt like falling asleep from boredom. Suddenly, Alex called Deus, and with a smile, told him they should get going. Deus was confused and said it was just getting interesting, so why did Alex keep trying to ruin the fun? He asked if it could be that Alex was afraid of the hero. Alex answered yes. He was a bit scared of him as he showed his decapitated hand with crosses made of light. Deus asked him what it was and found it disgusting. Suddenly, Varias dashed towards them once more and stood face to face with Deus. Deus then told Alex he couldn't trick his eyes. He knew Alex was easily capable of killing this hero, so he wondered why he was hesitating. At the same time, Varias once more used his breaking camellia tree skill, and the entire area was destroyed again. However, this time Deus didn't dodge. He wore a smile and told Varias that he already told him it was impossible. He said he wouldn't be able to cut even a strand of his hair. Varias then summoned a light sword and swung it at Deus, which Deus dodged again and again. While attacking Deus, Varias asked him if he was a blood. While dodging the numerous attacks hurled towards him, Deus responded, "Do I look like a blood to you?" Their battle, marked by Varias's immense destructive power, appeared even more formidable from a different perspective. However, Deus merely yawned, commenting that this was so boring. He had high hopes since Varias hailed from the bloodline of the last hero, but it seemed Varias was nothing more than a slightly faster fly. Deus said he was too lazy to even kill him and continued by saying that those who died at the hands of someone like Varias were simply worthless. Deus, ready to end this, stopped dodging and prepared to use his skill, Doom's Guillotine. But suddenly, Alex interfered, taking the brunt of Deus's attack to protect Varias. Varias then used his skill, threading camellia vines, and pierced Alex in the stomach. Deus, perplexed, asked Alex what he was doing. Alex looked at Varias and spat a purple substance at him. Varias's eyes, once filled with anger, returned to normal, and he fell to the ground unconscious in front of Alex and Deus. He noticed that Alex had merely knocked Varias unconscious instead of killing him, so he asked why. Deus pointed out that Alex had been avoiding Varias earlier, claiming to be afraid of him, yet now he was here, blocking Deus to save Varias. Deus demanded an explanation. Alex apologized, stating that his concern did not lie with this young hero. He then added, "It's the order of the world." Confused, Deus asked if causing chaos, destruction, and killing wasn't Alex's specialty. But Alex explained that all of that was within the boundaries of order. He said that if word spread that the master of the underworld was on the surface alone, the whole world would be in an uproar. People would come at him like endless cockroaches. Even a beautiful girl in a cradle would come crawling with a knife. That's just human nature. However, Deus retorted that they should let those cockroaches come because he would burn them all up in one go. He had been pondering this for a long time but couldn't wrap his head around it. How were these weaklings supposed to beat him? It just didn't make any sense to him. As Deus looked at Alex for answers, Alex just smiled and remained silent. This made Deus think there's more that he doesn't know. Alex's silence confirmed to Deus that he would discover the truth 20 years from now. When Deus asked Alex if he wouldn't reveal anything, even if he started talking about the order of the world, Alex simply replied that he was correct and suggested they head back. Suddenly, Deus giggled, transformed, and asked what would happen if he killed the hero right then and there. He taunted Alex, saying that this order Alex was so afraid of made him want to break it. Deus wondered if a god would come down to punish him. To his surprise, Alex responded that he didn't know, but he was sure that Deus's dream of becoming a party member of a hero and living among the 2% richest people in the world would be for nothing. Deus would have to face all the heroes of the world and destroy it for that to happen. Instead of quitting as the Demon King, he'd become the most notorious Demon King in history. Alex then suggested that attacking the humans before the final hero arises might be a good idea. He approached Varias, saying he'd handle him himself, and told Deus to go rest. However, Deus stopped him and asked if he was perhaps a fool for not understanding his jokes. He said the whole Demon King and war business had nothing to do with him now, so they shouldn't get their hands dirty for nothing. Alex then asked if they were just going to leave the hero like this. He suggested he'd push his leg through the hero's body to finish it. Deus, however, told him to hurry up and open a portal. Alex did so, and Deus asked him if he wasn't coming. Alex replied that he'd follow right behind after cleaning up their traces here, so he told Deus to go on ahead and get some rest. He asked Alex if his arm was okay, but Alex just dragged him into the portal and assured him that such injuries would be fixed instantly once he made a trip to the underworld. He told Deus not to worry and to head back first. He agreed and entered the portal, telling Alex to catch up quickly after he finished. After the portal closed, Alex stood there in silence for a moment. Then he bent down in front of Varias and, with a demonic expression and tone, called Varias a little punk for daring to brand him, one of the 7 dukes of the demon world, with that dirty light. Alex's anger was so intense that sharp blood seemed to come from his eyes as he demonically declared that with his own hands, he would end the lives of Varias's offspring in 20 years, thus ending the family lineage of the Holostuarsha. Meanwhile, Zeke was still asleep with his dear shield beside him. Deus appeared next to him with a smile and remarked that Zeke must have been tired because he was knocked out cold. Deus then pondered what would happen 20 years later, expressing his annoyance at all the rules and order. He wondered why the dragons were causing so much trouble and called the dragon god dumb, questioning if she even knew what was happening to her children. Suddenly, the dragon god appeared, floating in the air, and asked if Deus was referring to her as dumb. Deus turned around and bluntly answered that he was talking about her. Deus asked her if she had been watching the whole time. She replied that she had planted a feather on him. Deus then pointed at the baby dragon corpse the hero had killed earlier and said that if she planned on making a formal complaint against the humans, he could be a witness. Finding the idea of a demon being a witness amusing, she asked if he expected to go to court and say, "Hello, I'm the Demon King. I stopped the hero who broke the peace treaty from hunting a dragon." He responded by saying that the assumption that all demons are bad was biased. She retorted, asking if he wanted her to believe that, even though demons surfaced every 100 years to wreak havoc. He conceded, wondering aloud why demons kept surfacing and whether they could just live in the underworld. She mocked his question, doubting that someone like him was the Demon King. Deus then retorted, calling her a lizard brain, just standing idly by as her children died at human hands. He revealed that humans called her children items and that it likely wasn't the first time they had hunted dragons. He asked her why she thought they hunted dragons, then answered his question by saying it was to craft dragon weapons. He explained that dragon body parts were treasures and that humans slaughtered young dragons trying to protect their mothers. He asked if that wasn't a blatant disregard for the peace treaty. She then asked him if he could do something for her. He inquired what she wanted him to do. She answered, revenge. She asked if he could take revenge on the humans who were killing her children. He paused for a moment and asked why he should take revenge on her behalf. Couldn't she do it herself? She explained that she couldn't because once a dragon left the territory of the dragon's kaleidoscope and entered the human world, humans couldn't be faulted for killing them. It was like how no one blamed the 100-Year War demons. Those were the rules of the world, so no matter how many of her children died in the human world, she couldn't do anything about it. Deus was fed up with the mention of the rules. He asked who made them in the first place. She replied, the enforcers. The moment she said it, an enormous pressure fell upon Deus. He collapsed to his knees, blood streaming from his nose. Confused, he wondered what was causing this strange pressure. She answered, that's the rule, referring to the bindings of the world they both belonged to. Deus, frustrated, remarked that first, she spoke of nonsensical rules and laws and now enforcers. Suddenly, he rose to his feet, yelling, enough of this, you bastards! He declared that if they were so high and mighty, they should rule the world themselves. He asked if they expected everyone to follow random rules and orders without question. After hearing this, she laughed and said she was impressed he withstood the pressure of a human body. She acknowledged that while he might look stupid, a demon king is still a demon king in the end. He then warned her to watch her tongue when addressing him, calling her a lizard brain. Curious, she asked why he quit being a demon king. She was excited because he was the first to do so in the last 666 centuries. She speculated that the enforcers must be having a headache since he broke the rules. Deus asked why she seemed so happy about it, suggesting that she might want to break the rules herself. Nervous, she denied it, claiming she was just curious since it was the first time it had happened. Regardless, she warned him to be cautious of the enforcers. Though he might be safe for now, in 20 years, when that day arrives, she is sure they will take action. Deus asked if she thought he would be scared by small tricks like what they just did. He said they could try whatever they wanted, and he would face them anytime. She then shifted the conversation, asking him again why he quit being a demon king. She wanted to know the reason he was breaking a cycle that had persisted for 665 centuries. He answered, saying that the reason wasn't anything impressive. He then said, the reason I quit being a demon king is... Suddenly, his words were cut off as Alex appeared and told Deus they should go. Alex mentioned that he had tidied things up. However, he noticed the dragon god and was confused. The dragon god was angry about Alex's timing. Deus told Alex to hurry up and open the portal so they could go home, to which Alex agreed. However, Golden Law shouted, insisting that Deus finish giving her his answer before leaving. Breaking the fourth wall, Deus said they would be bombarded with negative comments for dragging out the chapter, so he would tell her another time. She asked him what he was talking about, and he told her to hurry up and go back. She suddenly called him back, saying that even if he didn't take revenge for her, he should expose those bastards and reveal how many heroes were involved. She lamented that many of her children were being killed, and if it continued, it would breach the treaty. She speculated that recent actions of the extremists might be related. After hearing this, Deus asked for triple the usual fee. She was confused, so he explained that since the case was difficult, he wanted 3 times the usual amount. Shocked, she called him a demon-like bastard but reluctantly agreed. Sarcastically, she asked if he was happy, to which he replied, "Ah, thank you, dear customer." Before they left, she pointed her finger at him, and a light shone on him. He asked what it was, and she explained it was magic to hide his demonic aura. Not only the hero beside him but also the Bloods reacted to his aura. But now it wouldn't be an issue. He understood and told her to get lost, then instructed Alex to drive and leave the place. Golden Law found his tone annoying as they left her alone, floating in the air under the full moon. She wondered if she was doing the right thing. The next day, our three heroes arrived at a beautiful place. Deus asked how the kingdom was so rich, to which Alex answered that they came from a hero lineage dating back 60,000 years, the Holochuarsha family. Deus then says that Zeke is also a hero, so why is he trash? Zeke hears him and, feeling ashamed, says, "I'm sorry for being like that." Alex then suggests they should discuss these matters when Zeke isn't present. Deus asks why, to which Alex responds that Zeke might start rebelling. When Deus presses further, Alex explains that, as he has mentioned before, once a hero's family becomes famous, many nobles and castle lords will line up to be their sponsors. Sponsoring a hero is seen as fighting for the peace of the world. On top of that, activities like dragon poaching from the previous night are a good source of money. To be honest, dragon poaching is something everyone knows about but keeps quiet, even among dragons. Deus asks why, and Alex says that since humans are at war with the demon world, dragons have no choice but to help humans. If humans were to fall, dragons would be next. Deus agrees, noting that dragon body parts are popular even in the demon world, making it a profitable business for those capable. Deus asks Alex if he means that the Holochuarsha family and others are after dragons. He then turns to Zeke and asks if his family doesn't poach dragons. Zeke laughs and says that you need to be at least a G-class to get near a dragon's nest. Deus agreed and replied that if even a trash family like Zeke's could do it, any stray cats and dogs on the street would be able to as well. Alex then asks Deus why they are there, to which Deus answers, "For business." He explains that it is an undercover operation. He calls it Operation Dragon Poaching Investigation. After saying this, he suggests they should go, but Alex tells him to wait. He explains that while Zeke might be fine, they should disguise themselves a little since their identities were exposed in yesterday's incident. Hearing this, Deus has a marvelous idea, one that is phenomenal, outstanding, and brilliant. They simply exchange clothes. Alex, with his hair tied up like a little girl, inwardly asks himself if he should just quit. Deus was ready to skedaddle away with his new look, but Zeke stopped him and gave him a heads up. He suggested that Deus start acting the part now, not that he wasn't worthy of being a hero or anything. Deus found it fair enough. It wasn't difficult. So he stood in front of the castle and began shouting, "The hero of heroes, the candidate for the last hero, soon to be number 1, Zeke Panhali Beish, is here." He then commanded them to open the door. After that, he looked back with a smile and said he was going to break the door down but resolved it with words, so he asked if he did well. Moments later, they found themselves in a beautiful room, and Zeke inwardly marveled at how amazing it was. Suddenly, something caught his attention, a portrait. He wondered if it depicted the person from the textbooks, the last hero of the 52nd generation who fought to the death with the Demon King for 13 days and emerged victorious, Hassan Panholochuarsha, the 17th. He thought to himself that Hassan was on a whole other level compared to him, and he felt embarrassed to call himself a hero like that. Deus noticed his nervousness and asked if he was feeling nervous. He then said, "Aren't all heroes equal?" and told him there was no need to be scared. Suddenly, they heard a voice agreeing with Deus, saying that all heroes are equal. They turned and saw the person who continued, adding that not all heroes are equal in skill. He explained that the holy blood of the first is bestowed by God only upon those who can bear its weight, and God knows who is fit to become the true hero. He then welcomed the hero of the Holy Beish family and his companions, introducing himself as Solus Panholochuarsha, the current third-generation hero of this century. Though retired, he was now in charge of the house. Deus thought Varias would come, but he assumed this man must be his father. The last hero, being born from the 5th generation of the century, is the Lord of the World. The title they are given is Zero. One of the children of the 4th generation heroes like Zeke and Varias will be the last hero. Zeke then stood up, bowed, and introduced himself as Zeke Holy Beish, expressing his honor to meet Solus. He also introduced the two next to him as his companions, Sir Deus and Sir Alex. To his shock, Solus revealed that he knew about him and his party. He explained that he was a bit late because he had to confirm with the hero management department. It seemed that Zeke had somehow managed to gather companions, though he was told that Zeke had dropped out of the race. Zeke responded by saying he wasn't surprised Solus thought that, but he hadn't given up. After hearing this, Solus looked at Deus and commented that a rich merchant had paid his way into becoming a companion of the hero by finding someone from a fallen hero family. "It's a vulgar but common story," he remarked. Then he asked what brought them to the Holostuarsha family. Deus bluntly replied that it was nothing much, just a strange rumor they wanted to confirm. Suddenly, with a cold gaze, Solus told him that his tone didn't suit his position, to which Deus responded by saying he thought they would speak as fellow heroes, but he guessed he was wrong. He asked if Solus wanted to be treated as a noble now that he had retired. Nervously and sweating bullets, Zeke told Deus to stop and mind his manners. Unexpectedly, Solus started laughing and said that Deus was quite direct. He said he had been like Deus once, unaware of his place and acting as he pleased as if he could single-handedly defeat the Demon King. He warned Deus to be careful because there's a sky above the ceiling, meaning there is always someone higher. Zeke nervously laughed and agreed, saying there was hardly anyone who hadn't heard of the D-hero, Sir Solus. Solus then sat down and asked Deus what rumors he was speaking of. Deus explained that they had heard the Holy Stewarsha family possessed some high-quality materials, and there was something they were looking for. Solus assumed they must have some money but doubted it would be enough for what they sought. He explained that the Holy Stewarta family only dealt in top-quality materials, such as the obsidian teeth of the red salamander, the black essence of the Lich King from the Huron War, or the heart of the white-headed giant from the Hagen mountain range. To his shock, Deus said they didn't need those small things. Deus stated they were looking for something higher class than giant materials. Solus responded that the only thing higher class than giants was dragons. Deus agreed and said that Zeke required items to bolster his image. He explained that they were looking to create armor made of dragon parts. Then he dropped something on the table, and Solus recognized it as the demon world's blood-colored lava stone. Solus inwardly wondered how he got his hands on such a rare item. What Solus didn't know is that this item is a common rock found in the demon world's volcanic mountains. Solus then asked if Deus wasn't aware that dragons and humans are under a peace treaty. Trading dragon parts is against the law. He emphasized that the Holostuarsha family doesn't participate in such illegal activities. Instead, he suggested they use other equally rare materials for Zeke's armor. Deus ignored him and told Alex that they should leave, as it seemed this place didn't have what they needed. He continued, saying, "Just who were those people that loaded the dragon into the airship? I was sure it was the Holostuarsha crest on that airship." Solus menacingly responded, implying that Deus was speaking as if he saw something. Deus explained that they were rushing to get into the race since they started late, hearing things they didn't expect as they scrambled to catch up, and inevitably seeing what they didn't need to see. Solus's menacing expression didn't change as he said, "Is that so? That's unfortunate." He warned them to be more careful. Deus retorted that it takes time to build a tower but only a moment to tear it down. He said they were still new to this, so they didn't yet understand how things work with the heroes. He might spread rumors that the established families were monopolizing all the good stuff if he was in a bad mood. He suggested they give him something to appease him so he didn't talk. Deus and Solus's gazes met, and it looked like they were about to fight, but Zeke intervened, telling them to chill. Solus laughed and said he would ask the next question. He asked if they had heard about a masked hero suddenly appearing and defeating numerous dragons. Hearing this, Zeke was visibly anxious, but Deus responded, "What about it?" Solus smirked and said that he didn't know if it was a coincidence, but the Doom's Lagoon that Zeke was carrying had materials from the Blue Dragon and the Darkstone Dragon that the masked hero defeated. Deus then said he was surprised that Solus knew about the Doom's Lagoon. Solus replied that it was no surprise since he knew everything about items above the rare rank. By the sheen, he could tell it was a special S-rank Doom's Lagoon made with scales from blue and darkstone dragons. He hadn't seen such a Doom's Lagoon on the world's treasure list, meaning it was likely crafted in secret recently. Noticing that Deus seemed to be the leader of their group, Solus decided to speak to him since he was acting like the leader rather than the hero. Solus said he was unsure of Deus's relationship with the masked hero but wanted him to relay a message if he happened to meet him. Solus explained that because the masked hero had been eliminating dragons, several powerful people were suffering financially. As a result, some high-ranking members of the affected clans were planning to gather to eliminate the masked hero and anyone associated with him. Solus then added that a treasure like the Doom's Lagoon shouldn't be in the hands of a rural F-rank family. The number of legendary items needs to be properly managed, whether they be equipment or people, since royalty equals value. He denied the rumor that his prestigious family deals in illegal materials such as dragon parts. He then told them that if they needed the low-ranked materials he mentioned earlier, they could come to him at any time. Calling them newbies, he said he was a bit busy, said goodbye, and left the room, leaving them there. Back outside, Deus asked if all heroes were like Solus. Despite knowing it sounded strange coming from him, Deus still thought Solus was a jerk, a sentiment Zeke agreed with. Summarizing their situation, Alex explained that the blood families were working together to hunt dragons, monopolize the materials, and eliminate other material traders. He further clarified that the most important thing to a hero is their equipment. By controlling the supply of materials, they could control the heroes. This explained why most families experienced ups and downs, while a few remained strong throughout the ages. It was likely that all the famous families were part of this clan, a fair assumption according to Alex. Zeke then expressed his disappointment, saying he had expected Solus to be righteous and fair, and he couldn't accept that all the heroes he had looked up to were like Solus. Deus remarked that humans were truly rotten, and considering how things were, they seemed kinder than the so-called heroes. After this comment, Alex looked at him with a silent smile. Deus added that it was no surprise humans had won 665 times. Alex didn't respond, maintaining his silent but slightly nervous smile. Brushing it off, Deus congratulated Zeke for becoming a target. Confused, Zeke asked what he meant, to which Deus reminded him of what Solus had said earlier. The clan's higher-ups were after the masked hero, who was Zeke. These words brought Zeke to tears as he realized the heroes pursuing him were likely from a D-ranked family. Desperate, he asked Deus what to do. He reassured Zeke that it wouldn't matter if those little punks came at them in droves, but suggested they focus on their business to avoid unnecessary trouble. With their store filled with weapons to sell, he decided the masked hero should lay low for a while. He then proposed they do one last thing that night. Alex and Zeke, confused, asked what they would be doing. He giggled menacingly and answered that they needed to wrap up some things, specifically taking out the renowned family of Holistuarsha and the dragon poaching cartel to rip off Golden Law for 3 times the rate of her payment. It's now night, and the full moon is out in the sky. Zeke and Deus walk through the beautiful streets. Deus mentions that the Holy Stuarta family even has a lake in their castle, expressing his jealousy. Zeke then stops him and says he has a small question he'd like to ask. Deus asks what his question is. Zeke then says that what they are doing right now is sneaking into the Holistuarsha family to find the dragon's corpse they have hidden somewhere in the castle to prove they are poaching dragons. He adds that it feels almost like thievery. Deus responds, confirming that Zeke is correct and calling him smart. Zeke isn't done and raises his hand like he's in a classroom to ask another question. He points out that considering they're sneaking in, aren't they just blatantly walking down the castle center? Suddenly, armored footsteps are heard coming from 2 guards. Deus appears calm, but Zeke panics, telling Deus that it must be the patrol and that they need to hide quickly, thinking they are already caught. The 2 guards look tough, and their gazes seem to meet with our heroes, making Zeke even more nervous as he inwardly wondered what they should do. But the guards just walk past them as if they weren't even there. Zeke sighs in relief, assuming that Deus cast an invisibility spell on them, to which Deus confirms. Zeke is very impressed, and then Deus says he will go ahead. Zeke tells him to wait for him. Moments later, as they walk past many magnificent golden buildings, Zeke admires everything. After he catches up with Deus, He tells him that the Holostuarsha family doesn't seem to have a dragon and asks what they should do. He also wonders where Alex went, as he hasn't seen him since earlier. He tells Zeke that Alex went ahead to get started, and Zeke understands. Deus then asks Zeke if his family ever lived well like this. Zeke scratches his head and says that there's a story from the past that's almost like a legend. As far as his grandfather can remember, they've always been poor. Deus says that perhaps Zeke's family lacked hard work. Blushing, Zeke responds that it could be that, adding that both his grandfather and father were low-ranked heroes. Deus, curious about the rank, asks if they take a test to estimate one's rank. Zeke mentioned there is a test, but first you have to graduate from Hero University. Deus was taken aback, realizing they even have a university. Zeke confirmed it, adding that he plans to send his younger siblings there. He acknowledged it would be expensive, but he was determined to work hard to make it happen. Deus then stopped walking and asked if Zeke realized that what they were planning was far from heroic. Sneaking into a hero family to steal, was he okay with that considering he was a hero? Zeke stayed silent for a moment, then admitted he knew it was a crime. However, after meeting Deus, he realized something. With a smile, he said that Deus was the real righteous one. While they might look like a pack of thieves now, they were stopping criminals trying to monopolize materials. He had been taken aback by Deus's actions before, but now he understood that Deus knew the truth about Solus. He asked if that was why Deus acted that way, to make Solus expose himself. Deus blushed slightly and said he hadn't thought that far, but he allowed Zeke to think of it as he wished. Zeke continued, reminding him of what he had said when they first met. This is a chance. Although he couldn't say it then, he had almost given up on being a hero. It's impossible for someone like me, he thought to himself all of his life. Although it wasn't the best situation, meeting a D-rank hero and using an amazing shield was all thanks to Deus. He admitted he hadn't done anything to deserve this. Stealing it didn't matter as long as his younger siblings could live well. He wanted to ensure these kids weren't called failures like he was. He would make sure he didn't pass down his poverty to them and would raise them into amazing heroes and saints. Although they wouldn't be on the front lines 20 years later for the 666th war, he would ensure they could at least participate in the rear so he could have a large portrait of his siblings fighting in the war like the one they saw at Solus's place. He hoped to pass down a legacy to future generations of his family. The Holy Beach family participated in the 666th war against the Demon King. That's how the Holy Beach family defeated a Demon King and lived happily ever after forever. That is how he wanted his name to be remembered. It was his dream. He then stopped Zeke and asked, "What about you? Don't you have a part in this? Don't you have something you want to do or be? Like, I want to live my life like this or like that. Don't you have anything like that? Sacrificing your entire life just for your family. Are you satisfied with just that?" After hearing those words from Deus, Zeke started shaking but composed himself and said, "That's all I want. I will end the poverty of the Holy Beach family in my generation. To make that happen, I can even make a deal with the devil." Deus smirked and said, "It looks like you picked the right devil to make a deal with. Let's see this through to the end, to the depths of hell." Suddenly, Deus called Alex, and he immediately appeared out of a portal. He paused on top of a street lamp. "Yes, master." While Zeke was happy to see Alex back, Alex then said that he found it. Zeke was confused for a moment, but then Alex said they should head over to those bastards' secret room. When Alex appeared, he approached Deus and asked if they should set off. Deus, however, inquired whether Alex had found it. Alex pulled a brown notebook from his pocket and affirmed he had, to Zeke's astonishment. Alex revealed that he had also found their clan member list. He began listing the family names associated with the clan. The Holy Polonia family, the Halasadasok family, the Holy Evergreen family, the Holy Ash family, the Holy Chestnut family, the Holy Zelkova family, the Holy Elder family, the Holy Silver Birch family, the Holy Cork Oak family, the Holy Cottonwood family, the Holy Willow family, etc. With a confident grin, he announced that there were 76 families listed, all of whom boasted deep histories and high prestige. Upon hearing this, Zeke's face fell. He was saddened, recognizing many of these families from the textbooks on heroes. He wondered how they could have been involved in such deeds. Cutting to the chase, Deus asked, "Where are the dragons hidden?" Overlooking the beautiful landscape with its mesmerizing lake, Alex confirmed Deus's suspicion. They were indeed hidden underwater. This revelation deeply shocked Zeke. Deus suggested they get started. Alex agreed, and with a display of magic unlike anything they had seen before, he pointed his finger, emitting a blue light that formed a bubble around Deus's and Zeke's heads. Confused by what had just happened, Zeke watched as Alex and Deus leaped off the bridge and plunged into the water, completely submerged. Zeke stood on the bridge, dumbfounded and nervous, calling out their names. With no other choice, he mustered his courage and jumped, calling for them to wait. As he hit the water, he sank deeper and deeper. The foolhardy man was holding his breath, dreading the inevitable plunge, but a sudden realization dawned upon him. He could breathe. His fear momentarily subsided as he wondered if it was the presence of an air bubble that made this possible. However, his relief was short-lived. His eyes widened in shock as he looked ahead, where Deus and Alex were swimming towards several dragons. These majestic creatures were covered in blankets, chained to the lake's bed with peculiar papers covered in strange inscriptions affixed to them. Just then, one of the dragons opened its eyes, and its menacing red gaze sent shivers down Zeke's spine. Meanwhile, Alex and Deus stood observing the creatures. Alex noted, "If you consult the records, it mentions that the families harvest the dragon scales and then summon healers to mend them, only to harvest their scales again. This cycle is repeated endlessly." He explained that this systematic healing and harvesting allowed them to maintain this operation, a farm, a factory of living dragon scales. Turning to the side with a keen interest, Alex continued, "This dragon right here has been enduring this cycle for 230 years. Zeke was utterly flabbergasted. He couldn't fathom how the people everyone considered heroes could be so cruel. Deus joined the conversation, turning to Alex with a serious expression. "Do you think the hardliners are aware of this?" he asked. Alex replied without hesitation, "Don't be surprised. It's possible that since their god remained passive even as things worsened, they decided to take matters into their own hands." Deus nodded thoughtfully. "That might explain why they're using those strange parasites to fight humans instead of focusing on their mutual enemy, the demonic race." He chuckled, a glint of understanding in his eyes. "I get it. I suppose if I were in their position, I might have tried to eliminate them all too." Changing the subject, Alex approached the dragon. "We should hurry and take a scale so we can leave this place," he said decisively. Deus agreed, and as they watched, Alex's claws extended, sharp and ready. With precision, he pierced the dragon's scale, using his formidable grip to wrench it from the creature's body. Holding the scale, he and Zeke swung upwards to make their escape. "Let's get going," Alex urged Deus. But just then, something unexpected halted their progress. Alex turned back as he heard Deus mutter, "Something doesn't sit right with me." Alex looked at Deus, who hadn't moved and was still staring intently at the dragon. Confused, Alex asked, "Aren't we going?" But Deus ignored him. With a tone tinged with anger, Deus finally spoke. "As I suspected, this just doesn't sit well with me." Without warning, he kicked away the blackened chains that bound the dragon, freeing it with a single powerful strike. Zeke and Alex stared at Deus in shock, their mouths agape at his sudden bold move. Yet their surprise didn't end there. In a dramatic flourish, Deus unleashed a laser beam attack from his eyes, slicing through the chains that were tied up on the lake's floor. One by one, as their chains were destroyed, the dragons opened their wings, unleashing a mighty roar, a battle cry signaling their readiness to return to the surface and seek revenge. Alex looked utterly annoyed by the unfolding chaos, yet he was powerless to intervene. The water's surface churned violently for a moment before the red dragon burst forth with great velocity, water splashing everywhere. Guards stationed on the bridge witnessed the spectacle in stunned silence. Initially confused, their faces soon mirrored sheer terror as they realized the dragons had escaped. Towering above them, the 5 dragons cast imposing shadows. The red dragon wasted no time preparing its fiery breath. Without a moment's hesitation, it unleashed a ferocious fireball directly onto the guards, igniting the area in a blaze. The purple dragon, the eldest among them, did not remain idle either. It launched a purple fireball at the buildings, leaving destruction in its wake. The other dragons followed suit, soaring into the air before raining down fireballs, each one demolishing the structures below. Meanwhile, the ice dragon carved a straight path across the sky, freezing everything beneath its icy breath. At the water's edge, Zeke emerged with great difficulty, flanked by Alex and Deus. In contrast to Zeke's struggle, Deus emerged with effortless grace. Alex's frustration boiled over as he confronted Deus, shouting at him to explain why he had unleashed the dragons in such a reckless manner. Deus, maintaining his usual calm demeanor, simply responded, "Just because." He continued by explaining that he had a sudden fit of anger because the face of that dumb bastard Solus popped up in his head. Alex's anger intensified as he shouted, "Didn't you say that you wouldn't do anything but take a scale?" Deus replied that he didn't know and didn't care, adding that he hadn't touched any of those blood bastards, so it was fine. As they started fighting like little kids, Alex told him that he had made a huge mess and demanded that he take responsibility. However, Deus didn't want to. Meanwhile, Zeke turned back and looked at the once beautiful golden place, now turned into fire and ice, filled with destruction from the dragons. Inwardly, he thought to himself that he was sure Deus said they would do this secretly. Their shouting continued as Alex pointed out that now rumors would spread, asking what Deus planned to do next. Deus revealed his plan to just wipe them all out now. Alex questioned why, if that was his plan from the beginning, what was the reason for them going undercover in the first place? They were so engrossed in their argument that they didn't notice someone standing nearby watching them. That person was none other than Various, who looked angered by those bastards' comments.